Hello everyone, welcome to What If Quirkless Deku Became the Strongest Number 1 Hero Movie 2. Before we start, please go support LOL World 345 for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made, there will be some mistaken characters' gender, but of course Deku is a male. Go for the little one. Many heroes were gathered outside UA, in front of them were three people which were Mr. Night-Eye, Director Nezu and Almight. Izuku was with the big three of UA and Kirishima, which made him a little nervous since he approached to greet and get to know each other since they would be part of the same team. Nezu. Remember, this is an important operation, we cannot afford to fail. Mr. Night-Eye. Now the teams we have formed are based on their skills and experience in battle, in addition there is at least one hero with support skills in each team. Almight. Another thing I want to clarify, in there despite being divided into teams they will be close to each other in case there are problems. We do not know the structure of the place very well, but we are sure that it will be a complicated battle. Kirishima. Nervous. Izuku. More than anything desperate. Kirishima. You were the one who warned Director Nezu, right? Izuku. Yes. Kirishima. Do you think she's okay? Izuku. I hope so, I don't want anything bad to have happened to her because I was late. Almight. Now go, and remember that the main mission is to rescue the little girl. All the people got into different vehicles, in total there were about 15 vehicles, and they were heading towards the mansion. The day before that the spy had miraculously returned with many scars and wounds around his body. This scared man said that the girl was used as an experiment to create bullets that would end people's quirks. Izuku was adjusting his suit and mask, while Nejire looked at him strangely, he looked worried and desperate to save her. Everything was fine, but when they were close to the place one of the first cars was attacked and it exploded causing the three cars to crash before him. In the car where Izuku was with the big three, Fatgum and Kirishima was turned over so everyone got out of there quickly. Izuku. It seems we will have to change the strategy. Nejire. Look at that. Inside the place gunshots were heard and the use of quirks in confrontations could be seen. Also outside at the main entrance, there was a very strong shooting between police and villains. Izuku. I think we will have to enter from behind. Mirio. I'll see you inside, don't take long, goes through the wall. Nejire. I have to help the police, take care. Tamaki. I'll stay with you, it's time to go. The four surrounded the building, but not before running into armed men, but other heroes took care of them giving way to Izuku and the others. Upon entering the place was a mess, and he could see how the same little guy was sneaking into the middle of the fight. Izuku. It's him. Tamaki. Wait. Izuku entered the building and behind him were Tamaki and Kirishima. Fatgum blocked the entrance of several villains since they were chasing them, but the building began to become something gelatinous and strange. Kirishima tried to hold Izuku by the hand, but a wall came between him leaving him with Tamaki. Kirishima. And now what do we do? Tamaki. I don't know, we have to regroup. They both turned around but could see a man climbing a metal tube with a bottle of alcohol in his hand. Kirishima. And who is he supposed to be? Tamaki. I don't think he's a partner. Both of them were alerted, but the wall behind them opened and Kirishima was grabbed by someone and then dragged. Tamaki tried to save him, but the man got down and hit him hard in the face with the bottle causing a wound on his forehead. Tamaki turned his hands into tentacles and grabbed the man by the legs and put him upside down, but the man spit some kind of vomit in his face. Tamaki let go and quickly removed the liquid, but received a kick in his abdomen that made him hit the wall. Later that man began to scratch him. With Kirishima. He fell a few floors below or so it seemed. When he got up he could see how Fatgum was standing looking everywhere. Fatgum. Get out of here kid, this is dangerous. Kirishima. I don't know how to leave, but even if I knew I wouldn't, I still have to help you. Fatgum. Good, but now the problem is that a guy about 2 meters tall has us locked in here and we can't see him. Kirishima. A true warrior doesn't hide, so maybe he just wants to stall for time, maybe he ran away. The wall in front of them opened and out came Rappa with chains on his wrists. Rappa. So you're talking about the meaning of being a warrior, kid. Kirishima. He is great. Fatgum. Nothing we can't handle. Rappa. Sorry, buddy, but you're not invited to this fight, someone else will take care of you. Fatgum was swallowed by the wall and disappeared. Kirishima activated his quirk and stared coldly at Rappa, who just put on a serious face that couldn't be seen through the mask. Rappa. I've always been looking for a worthy opponent and I've only found one who has been able to defeat me. Kirishima. Today there will be two. Rappa cracked his knuckles and slowly walked towards Kirishima. He approached running and gave him a strong blow to the side of his abdomen. Rappa did not move and responded with a blow to Kirishima's chest that made him step back a bit. He put a hand on the ground and breathed a little. He knew he was an enemy that was on another level, but he got up to run towards him again. Rappa gave a slow blow that was going in the direction of his face, but Kirishima dodged it and responded with a blow to his face, then he ducked and began to give him a flurry of blows to the abdomen. Rappa took a step back and with a strong blow with his knee, managed to knock the wind out of Kirishima. He got on his knees, but Rappa grabbed him by the head and threw him against a wall, causing a crack in it. Rappa. And you claim to be the second to beat me? Kirishima. I'm just getting started. He got up in pain. Rappa. And I'm already finishing. Rappa ran towards Kirishima and tried to hit him, but he rolled on the ground dodging it. The blow hit the wall, and several pieces of concrete fell. One of them fell right next to Kirishima, and he threw it in Rappa's face, but it simply destroyed. Ed removed the smoke that was caused, but saw how a fist with spikes destroyed his mask, and one of those spikes entered his eye causing a wound. Kirishima had his feet resting on Rappa's abdomen, while his right hand was buried in his eye. On the other hand, he began to hit him in the abdomen, beginning to hurt him little by little. Rappa grabbed him by the waist and took him off, and then threw him against the ground. Kirishima's face hit the concrete, but he got up quickly, only to receive a strong punch in the face that made him stagger but not fall. Later Rappa also hit him, starting a burst of blows between each other, which Rappa ended up winning. Because Kirishima was already bleeding from the face and was somewhat injured. Rappa. You surprised me. Kirishima. I told you I haven't even started on the ground. Rappa. But your fate is the same as your friend's. If I am not mistaken, he died at the hands of One for All, a death worthy of someone strong, although I would have liked to be able to fight him. But if he died, it's because he was weak and didn't have enough guts, although I will never discover the truth. Kirishima's fists began to clench as did his teeth, his eyes had a few tears, and he got up without turning to look at the villain. The spikes that were around his body grew larger, and an incredible image was seen. It was his improved quirk, which was covered in large spikes that when touched would hurt anyone. Kirishima. Who do you think you are to talk about him like that? I'll punch your stupid face in the face and send you to prison. He died a hero and asked us to fulfill our dreams, so for his honor and mine, I'll defeat you. Rappa. Finally something interesting, let's see what these he. Rappa didn't finish talking as he received a strong blow to his rib that made him bleed. Later he received another blow to his jaw that caused the same effect and he couldn't react in time, so it was for a while where he began to receive a large number of blows from Kirishima, which began to bleed because he still didn't control his quirk well. On the other hand, Rappa got serious and caught one of Kirishima's fists to give him a powerful blow with his left fist that made him step back, but couldn't take his eyes off him. Rappa ripped off his shirt, which was in tatters, and held Kirishima by the neck and then smashed him against the ground and began to hit his face, abruptly destroying those peaks. Kirishima was losing, but he remembered the image of Izuku on the ground lifeless and held with both hands the fist that was hitting his face. He began to get up slowly with blood all over his body and face. Kirishima. I will not suffer the same fate, it's not what he would have wanted. Kirishima punched Rappa's face, but his arm broke as the quirk was beginning to lose its effect and Rappa's resistance increased. Rappa did not let him rest and lifted him up and then ran towards one of the walls and went through it with the teenager's body. He could hardly move, but continued hitting his rivals back without stopping like him. They had already destroyed about 5 walls until Rappa fell to the ground because one of the spikes was embedded in his chest and pierced his rib. He got to his knees and breathing heavily he ripped it out of his chest but began to receive a large number of blows from Kirishima in the face that began to hurt him more. At one point Rappa could see that the young man had his eyes closed but continued hitting him, so he stepped aside and the young man fell to the ground. Rappa. Was he still fighting unconscious? Kirishima got up and punched Rappa in the chest, but he didn't move. The blows he was throwing were nothing, so Rappa decided to finish him off in a dignified manner and gave him a tremendous blow that made him spit blood and become embedded in one of the walls unconscious. With Tamaki. Both men were injured and sweaty, combining the blood with the sweat and the smell of alcohol impregnated in the room made the fight increasingly difficult, which was taking longer than expected. Tamaki dodged one of the man's attacks and turned his hands into seashells to hit him hard in the face several times and finished with a kick that made him fall. The man got up and took a quick sip of the drink and then screamed. Tamaki got into a fighting stance, but a kind of crane fell from the ceiling and crushed the villain, making him fall floors below. Tamaki. What was that? The young man changed his arms for some tentacles and reached the first room, but now the entire building was in chaos. On one hand, outside there was a shooting in which as long as you took a step outside, there was a chance of being hit by a bullet. Inside the building, all the heroes were having fights with villains who destroyed rooms and such, but Tamaki saw Rappa who left Kirishima on the ground. Tamaki. Can this get worse? But Izuku. He was at the lowest part of the facilities and already had some bullet wounds that grazed near him and blows he received from henchmen. In addition, a crane fell next to him and it lifted several stones which hit his face. Above he could hear the powerful fights, but he saw Mirio fighting with 2 men. Izuku. It seems he is in trouble. Izuku went to help Mirio, but a tremor began to shake the whole place. Several stones and floors were falling down, so he used one for all and tackled one of the men going through the wall with it to fall into the other room. Another kid, give up now. Izuku tried to attack him, but a wall was created in front of him. Izuku. So he's the one who controls this. Izuku was about to hit the wall when a hole was created in it, and he received a strong blow that made him fall. Later the wall fell on top of him as well as the ceiling, but Izuku got up and could see how Mirio tried to take care of both men, but they quickly retreated. Mirio. I think we'll have to hurry. Izuku. I'll take care of them, you go get Iri-chan. Mirio. Be careful, I don't think it's good to lose you again. Izuku. I know, now go. More problems. Mirio left that place and Izuku saw both men. They simply continued with the attack towards Izuku while he used 40% of one for all. This made him faster, stronger, but also had a greater chance of getting out of control, which is why he didn't do it very often. One of the men backed up, but Izuku jumped towards him while his partner created a wall to stop him. Izuku went through it and managed to catch the man. He turned around and kicked Izuku's face and then got up. On the other hand, his partner began to create small sharp rocks from the ground, molding them, and with these he trapped Izuku. And he was going to stop us. Izuku. I wasn't going to, I will. Izuku got out of one of the sharp stones and ripped off the tip of it and then buried it in the eye of the man who created them. The other was surprised and quickly pushed his partner towards Izuku, causing him to fall on top of him, giving him time to escape. Izuku was about to go, but the villain grabbed him by the suit and threw him roughly against another sharp rock that pierced his abdomen. Izuku spit some blood on his mask and the man began to hit him in the face strongly while shouting several things. Izuku's vision became cloudy and he remembered the scared face that Iri had and at the same time that of his mother when he was fighting with All For One. For a moment everything blurred and Izuku was in front of his parents. Inko. It's been a while, son, hugs him. Izuku. You were always strong and wanted to save lives, even if it meant risking yours. Izuku. But I couldn't save you all, bows his head. I lost my life, my freedom, but what hurt me the most was losing you all, with tears. Inko. What are you talking about? We will always be by your side. Izuku. We are your parents, we will never leave you, and we will always be there to protect you. Izuku. But I'm not strong, you just have to look at what's happening out there and… Inko. SHH, don't say anymore, you are strong for the fact of being present, risking yourself to save lives. I always knew that one day you would grow up and fly as high as an eagle showing its beauty, but I didn't think so soon. Izuku. We are proud of everything you have done with your effort and don't forget that you should never give up, for some reason you will become the best at what you do. Inko. Your determination. Izuku. Your effort. Inko. Your kindness. Izuku. Your courage. Inko. But. Izuku. Above all things. Both. Your big and unique smile that makes anyone feel safe, that and more things will make you the best hero of all time. Never stop moving forward, we will be there to see you. They begin to disappear. Izuku. Wait. Tries to hold both of their hands. Izuku. Don't stop, we'll be waiting for you, meanwhile you continue with your life. Inko. But don't forget us, smiling. Both parents looked into each other's eyes while hugging and then at their son with a warm smile. He lowered his shoulders and with a delicate look he said goodbye to them. They disappeared. Izuku. Thank you for everything. Izuku came back to his senses and saw how the man was lying on the ground resting. Izuku saw that his body had several wounds, but he held a stone with his hand and unearthed it from his abdomen little by little. Don't you know how to fall? Izuku. I don't, but you must be very used to it. Izuku freed himself and the man got up tired. He tried to hit him, but Izuku caught the blow and broke his wrist with the same hand, causing him to kneel. Izuku. Now finger by finger. Izuku grabbed the guy's pinky finger and broke it abruptly with one hand. The man held back a scream and with tears of pain, began to hit Izuku's hand desperately. Izuku just saw it and grabbed his other index finger to also break it, only this time slower, causing even more pain. Izuku. I'll be merciful to you. Izuku grabbed his face and lifted him up, only to give him a hard blow with his right arm, and the one for all by 40%, leaving him unconscious. Izuku ran to see if he could find Mirio around the place. It took a few minutes, but when he was running through a room a secret door opened underneath him that almost made him fall. It was very dark, but Izuku still entered. Izuku. What is this supposed to be? Izuku kept walking for a while, in fact it happened so long that he thought he was lost, but he saw a dim light somewhat close, and saw a small figure. Izuku. Iri. Who is it? Izuku. Calm down, it's me, the man with the mask, holds her shoulders, the one who gave you the strawberry cake. Iri. I shouldn't be here, he's going to get hurt, scared, he'll come. Izuku. Calm down, I won't let anything happen to you, and we'll get out of here. Eri. But that man is strong and ruthless, he has to go. Izuku. Yes, I have to leave here, but with you. Look at me. Takes off his mask. I've fought men stronger than him, but I'm not saying it won't be a challenge, but for that, I need help. Do you think you can help me? Smiling. Eri. Why yes. Izuku. That's the attitude. Now. Puts on his mask. Could you give me your hand? The little girl stood up and grabbed Izuku's hand. He held the candle with his other hand and walked down the hallway, looking at the plate and other things, like some rather disturbing toys. As the shots came out, they could be heard even louder. Eri. Are there more people here? Izuku. Yes, don't worry, but they will help us, there are many more of us so we will get out of here. Eri. It's okay. They both walked around the place hiding from the guards who were defeated by other heroes. They were about to go up an elevator when the wall in front of them was destroyed, but Izuku managed to cover Eri by putting his back to it. Izuku looked up and could see Mirio with some cuts and bruises all over his body. Mirio. Is it her? Izuku. Yes. Mirio. Go away. Izuku. Who are you fighting with? Mirio. It doesn't matter, go away. Chisaki. Oh Eri-chan, what are you doing next to those guys? Eri. And no, Chisaki. Do you want what happened last time to happen again? Eri. And no, I'll come back too. Izuku. She will come with us. English. Chisaki. You sound very sure of yourself and… Mirio disappeared while they were talking and appeared behind Chisaki, but he dodged the blow and with one hand hit Mirio's abdomen. Izuku let go of Eri's hand and ran towards Chisaki, but he turned around and kicked him in the stomach that made him fall. Both heroes began to try to hit him, but he dodged the attacks and counterattacked very quickly. For a moment Izuku gave him a strong blow with his right hand and Mirio in the stomach that made him retreat. Chisaki. I think there will be a need to get serious. Mirio. Go Izuku now. Izuku carried Eri and ran from the place. He was running quickly with Eri on his back clinging to him, while in the process he knocked out some villains. They were on the first floor, but out of nowhere it was destroyed and the whole house collapsed. Izuku was falling, and he could see how Tamaki was stretching his tentacles, so Izuku grabbed Eri to try to give it to him, but something grabbed him and dragged him, so he held her to him. The impact against the ground was painful, but Eri was not hurt. Izuku. What happened? Eri. You have to go, he's furious. Izuku. I'm not leaving you here, we'll leave together. Some rubble rose and Chisaki came out of it with Mirio almost unconscious at his side, but Chisaki looked horrible. It looked like a fantastic but evil creature, its body was a kind of moldable black colleus jelly, its face and mask were damaged by this, but it was very large. Izuku. Are you scared Eri-chan? Seeing Chisaki. Eri. Yes. Izuku. Me too. The little girl was surprised by the green-haired boy's words, but saw that he turned to look at her. Izuku. It's okay to be afraid of something, it's normal, but if we want to help others like I want to help you, we must make that fear a force that makes us move forward. The little girl's eyes shone for a moment, but she was pushed, she fell on her back, but saw how an arm made of a strange substance pierced Izuku's abdomen, causing him to start bleeding. Chisaki. Do you even know what strength is, kid? Izuku. It's not giving up and overcoming any challenge no matter how difficult it is. Another of Chisaki's arms pierced his abdomen, causing him to spit out blood. Izuku hit one of the arms weakly and saw Eri approach. Izuku. Don't come closer, with blood in his mouth and around his abdomen. Eri began to desperately hit the thing that pierced Izuku's abdomen with her small hands. He tried to stop her, but was brought in front of Chisaki. Chisaki. I have an experiment to finish and a world to ruin, do not interfere. Izuku hit Chisaki's face weakly, and he smiled and then threw Izuku away. Chisaki approached Eri, but she ran towards Izuku and began to move him desperately since he was on the ground without moving. Izuku. Hide, don't let him catch you, I'll get up. Eri. No, I won't leave you here. The little girl hugged the body of the green-haired young man, and he surrounded her with his arms trying to protect her. Chisaki saw the scene in front of them with disgust, and later tried to bury another arm in Izuku's head, but felt himself being carried and thrown away from there. Mirio. You'll have to go through my corpse if you want to touch them. Chisaki. So be it. Izuku crawled with Eri's help to some rubble and leaned on it. He saw the fight Mirio was having with Chisaki and saw a man pointing a gun at him. Izuku remembered that Nizu had told him about anti-quirk bullets, and he could see a piece of junk lying behind the man who was saying that. Izuku moved Eri and ran as fast as he could and then jumped in front of Mirio. The shot was heard and the bullet hit Izuku's arm. He fell and his body began to feel hot. It seemed like a strange reaction, but when he got up he could no longer use one for all. Izuku. Did I lose my quirk? Eri ran towards Izuku, who fell to his knees. The man who had shot smiled and took out a small Molotov cocktail. Eri tried to move Izuku, but fell right on his back, causing his body to quickly burn. Street. The shooting had ended and the heroes won, but Najira saw a person who seemed to be burning, which alarmed her, although she later saw that the fire magically went out, which she found strange. She was watching when out of nowhere a large wave of fire shot out of the place, and it seemed that a man was on fire standing in front of Chisaki and Mirio. Tamaki. Are you seeing the same thing I am? Najira. Yes. Tamaki. We have to help here with the wounded and heal our own wounds. Najira. Yes. Down below. Izuku had flames around his body that were spreading in lines, from his shoulders through his arms to his feet, something that seemed strange to him, but he remembered that when he was kidnapped by the League the exact same thing happened. Izuku. One last time, we will win no matter what. Chisaki, creating fire with one hand. Salvation. The fire tornado scared everyone present. The tornado reached a colossal height of 50 meters, and its temperature easily reached 60 degrees, which alarmed everyone present, but it suddenly disappeared. Everyone looked through the hole and could see how Mirio was lifted by a kind of floating fireball which quickly returned and hit Chisaki, but he covered himself. Chisaki. What are you supposed to be? Izuku. I don't know if I'm a hero or a villain anymore. My brain is fried right now, but I do know one very important thing. Izuku stood in front of Eri and turned her around to look at her. She was scared, and it could be seen very easily. Izuku. Calm down, everything will be fine. Turns to look at Chisaki. I will be the one to defeat you and make more people stop suffering because of you. Chisaki. I doubted. Chisaki began to grow larger, and her spikes became even more pointed and sharp, which worried Izuku a little. Chisaki. If she's not going to help me improve this world, then there's no reason for her to continue being here. Izuku. She has more reasons than you. They both looked at each other's faces, and Izuku quickly put his hands together. On the other hand, Chisaki used his body and sharp thorns that went straight to Izuku, but he opened his hands and moved them away as much as he could, creating a barrier of fire that burned all the thorns instantly. Chisaki got angry and went to attack Izuku from the front, but he created a wall of fire that rose very high, covering him completely and avoiding the impact. Chisaki began to attack in all possible ways to try to harm Izuku. He moved quickly around the place, attacking fiercely, but his attacks were always destroyed, or he dodged them. At one point Izuku pointed his right hand at Chisaki, and a flame came out of his arm, impacting him and leaving him somewhat injured. The sound of ambulances could be heard coming from above, which worried Izuku a little. He had to go see, but at the same time he had to protect the little girl, so he looked at her quickly and went in front to Chisaki to hit him in the face with his fists, which were covered in fire. Each blow was extremely powerful, but Chisaki was not someone weak. He was not someone you could take things lightly with, and this showed it with his actions. Izuku. Where is your strength? Chisaki. Appreciated. A thorn pierced Izuku's stomach and lifted him into the sky. He spat out some blood, but then was thrown towards some rubble, being destroyed with his body. He got up, but more thorns attacked him, piercing parts of his body like shin, forearm, etc. Eri ran towards Izuku and tried to remove all the thorns, and he looked at her seriously. Izuku. Run, hide, I'll be fine, just should. Eri. No. Hugs Izuku's leg. I'm not going to let anyone else get hurt because of me. You've done so much for me, and I'm not going to let anything bad happen to you. Chisaki brought Izuku right in front of him, causing the little girl to fall. Chisaki. What a beautiful reunion, but it makes me nauseous. Izuku. Let me take them off. Izuku held Chisaki's face with both hands, and a huge wave of heat could be seen. It easily covered Chisaki's entire body, but Izuku couldn't stand the tiredness and fell exhausted to the ground while Chisaki recovered. Izuku. Run, everything will be okay, go with Mirio-san. Eri. I can't leave you here. Eri hugged Izuku, and he looked at the sky for a moment and then looked back at the little girl. Izuku. Everything will be okay. It is not the first time that I fall like this, and it is not the first time that I get up before the predictions. One way or another I always find a way to get up and win. Eri. But with tears in her eyes. Izuku. Trust me. The little girl moved away from the young man and was rescued by some heroes. They went up but wanted to help Izuku, although he did not allow them, saying that Eri was more important. Izuku was about to get up when a lot of debris fell on him, hurting him. He only moved a few to catch some air, but was grabbed by the stomach and lifted up to see himself face to face with Chisaki. Chisaki. I always wanted to know who is behind that mask. Izuku. Keep wanting. Izuku hit Chisaki's face very weakly. He smiled and saw that Izuku's wound seemed to regenerate, so he buried a part of his body in his stomach again. Izuku spat blood and saw less and less. Everything seemed to blur little by little, and Chisaki seemed to become someone much more powerful and terrifying. Chisaki grabbed Izuku's mask and tried to tear it off, but Izuku held it with both hands. Chisaki. Fine, then I'll destroy it with blows. Chisaki created a kind of gauntlet and hit Izuku in the face, making him fall and breaking the upper right part of the mask, showing Izuku's green eye and a little blood dripping from his head. Chisaki. Next part. Chisaki crushed Izuku with his body and placed himself on top of him to begin hitting him as if he were an animal, but Izuku did not give up. Each blow clouded his vision more until he placed his hands on the ground and began to create several weak flames that heated the ground. These began to rise in intensity until Izuku managed to project himself by the pressure exerted, freeing himself from the grip. Chisaki tried to go for Izuku, but he turned around and gave him a direct blow to the face that left a red mark and an incredible burning sensation. Izuku. He is increasingly resistant. Izuku fell to the ground and hit it hard, seriously damaging his back, but even so he crawled on the ground and with the help of some rubble he managed to get up. Chisaki on the other hand, showed a face of fury and his face disappeared being completely covered by that substance. Later he propelled himself as if it were a cannonball towards Izuku, causing him to crash forcefully against the rubble and the earth walls that were there. Izuku was embedded in one and Chisaki took the opportunity to do the same attack repeatedly. Chisaki. I have fought for many years to achieve my goal, and I will not let some stupid heroes ruin it, especially you. Another attack hit Izuku's body, and he fell to the ground. He could see his blood running through the ground again, but this time Chisaki's reflection approaching appeared, but he looked different since he had his civilian appearance. Chisaki. Was all this worth it? Every hit I gave you, every bullet you received, every spike piercing your body, all to save someone, was it worth it? Izuku. Of course it was. Chisaki. I doubt it, there's a reason you're on the ground and I'm standing like that, Victor. Izuku. The one who's standing doesn't always win. Chisaki. Well, this time it will. Chisaki held Izuku's face and looked him in the eyes. A lock of Izuku's hair fell and shone in the sun, illuminating it in an incredible way. Chisaki held it with his other hand and destroyed it in a single instant. Chisaki. Did you understand the metaphor? Smiling. Izuku. Do you understand this? Izuku put his hands on Chisaki's chest and created a fire dagger with a little energy he had left, piercing his lung. Chisaki fell to the ground and blood was leaking, but then he got up slowly, showing how his body was regenerating. Chisaki. I gave you a chance and you squandered it like that. Izuku. I just gave me time. Chisaki was about to hit Izuku when a head pierced his chest. He got a little scared, but a wave of wind pushed him quite a bit, making him crash into several debris. Najire. Are you okay? Helps him up. Izuku. If we just have to get this over with, in fighting pose. Mirio. You're incredible, at your age I couldn't have done all this. Izuku. I didn't do it alone, I have you all. Chisaki. Enough with the meetings. Chisaki got up, but Izuku created a huge sphere of fire and trapped Chisaki inside it. Then Najire began to raise the sphere, and Mirio quickly entered to hit him using his quirk to avoid getting hurt. Izuku. Let's end this. Izuku created a fire spear and threw it at Chisaki, piercing his shoulder, then created another and threw it again, piercing another part of his body, and so on for a minute until Chisaki managed to free himself, but the fire along with the combined attacks returned him to his normal form. Chisaki. You couldn't beat me alone. Izuku. Exactly, it's good that I have companions to help me. Chisaki. Someday you will end up like me if you don't control yourself. Izuku. But that day won't be today, see you later, Chisaki. The villain stopped in front of the heroes and was hit by Izuku, who charged a fire attack that when it hit Chisaki created a devastating explosion. After that attack everything turned black for Izuku. Days later, hospital. Izuku woke up in the middle of the night bandaged and with several tubes passing serum through his veins. He removed them and got up from the stretcher to go out the door and see the lights on. Izuku was somewhat dazed and could not speak well for some reason, so he continued walking until he met a nurse. Nurse. Wait here, don't move. The nurse had Izuku in a chair and quickly went for a stretcher. Izuku looked in the mirror and thank God he still had his mask, although it was damaged and his wounds had threads, which meant that they had already partially healed him. The doctor arrived and Izuku lay down on the stretcher and was transferred back to his room, where the nurse proceeded to check him to see if any wounds had opened or any other problems, but none. Nurse. Well, it seems you're fine, I'll call your friends and the doctors. Izuku just accepted the gesture with his head and the nurse left. Izuku looked at the moon and waited for someone to arrive, and after a few minutes Almight opened the door with a serious look. Almight. We need to talk. Izuku just stared at All Might and he sat next to Izuku on the stretcher. All Might. I've been thinking about it and as for your health and such I think it's best if you take a break from being a hero. All Might lowered his head and Izuku stood up abruptly looking at All Might. All Might. Please look at this. All Might put some X-rays on Izuku's legs and he looked at them in detail. All Might. Every black dot you see is a wound you've had over time. Most of his body had black dots on the X-ray which alarmed him. All Might. There are a lot of injuries for your age, so it would be best if you took a break. I'm not saying not to train or anything like that, but rather not to interfere in serious conflicts for a year. Izuku looked at All Might and understood the situation, a year would be enough time to train and prepare better and also be able to heal their wounded. All Might. That's why it would be better if you only caught small-time criminals and trained it's the best. Izuku nodded and All Might smiled. All Might. But it's not all bad news, they told me that an anti-quirk bullet had hit you, but apparently it didn't disappear, the one for all only reduced its power capacity, it's like a reboot, so you'll have to train on your own, and now without help from illegal operations by villains. Izuku got up and hugged All Might, he reciprocated, and in the end All Might opened the door. All Might. Tomorrow more people will come to visit your rest. All Might left the room and Izuku lay down on the bed to calmly watch the moon and fall asleep. Goodbye Japan. A month passed since Shisaki's defeat and the disappearance of many of the containers that had the anti-quirk bullets in development, but the heroes were taking care of that. On the other hand, Izuku had begun a somewhat rigorous training to regain control of One for All and be able to return to combat as soon as possible, although if he took into account All Might's words, he did not plan to waste time. Right now he could only use 10% and that was somewhat complicated, but it helped him that before he already knew how to improve, so it was not difficult for him. Today Izuku could be seen sitting on a park bench while he watched Eri trying to integrate into society by playing with children, that's right, the little girl became very attached to the green-haired girl, and there were times when she stayed overnight at his house. Izuku was calm, but his phone started to vibrate, so he took it out, seeing that it was an unknown number. Izuku. Okay. Excuse me, can I contact Midoriya Izuku? Izuku. Yes, but who am I talking to? David. Oh, let me introduce myself, my name is David Shield, a scientist and creator of accessories to make the heroes' jobs easier. Izuku. Oh, yes, I know him, I've seen several interviews he's participated in, why the call? David. Well, I don't know if you know, but I was All Might's partner and best friend, and he told me that you wanted to leave Japan for a while, so he asked me if you could stay with me and that I could help you, and I gladly accepted. Izuku. That's perfect. Where do you live? David. United States, California. Izuku. It's a long flight, but that's fine. David. Perfect, but so that we're not complete strangers, I'll go for a day or two so I can gain a little of your trust. Izuku. Okay, see you. David. See you later. Izuku hung up and felt someone hug him from behind which surprised him, and when he turned around he found Eri leaning on his back. Izuku. Did something happen, did someone bother you? Eri. It's not that, are you leaving Japan? Izuku. Oh no, of course not, just. Eri. I heard everything, I was behind you. Izuku. Ah damn, look Eri-chan, things are complicated and I have to catch up on many things. Eri. Why don't you do it from here? The little girl stood in front of the green-haired boy with a sad look which made him feel somewhat guilty. Izuku. Eri-chan, you have many things to live, you will have a family, you will grow and make many friends, you will enjoy every moment of your life with the people you love. Eri. But you will not be there. Izuku. I will not leave forever, it will only be for 2 years. Eri. It's a long time, I don't want Dad Izuku to leave. The little girl hugged the green-haired boy and he was dumbfounded by the little girl's words, he knew she had some attachment to him because he saved her and all that, but not in that way as to call him Dad. Izuku. I think it would be better if we left for now since nothing is certain. The green-haired boy carried the little girl and went to UA meeting All Might. All Might. Did you receive the flame? Izuku. SHHH, points to Eri who was asleep. All Might. Oh, Aizawa could take care of her, he has this hour free. The green-haired boy went to the teacher's lounge and left the little girl in the care of a tired Aizawa, who didn't understand what was happening but reluctantly accepted. Izuku. Eri heard the conversation. All Might. Then we have problems. Izuku. But what made me doubt the most whether to leave Japan or not is that my name is Dad Izuku. All Might saw that the boy looked down and his shoulders began to tense, a great pressure accumulated and he didn't know what to do so he stood up and patted him on the back. All Might. Tell me what you feel when you've analyzed it and you're better, now I have to go. All Might knew how hard that decision was, but he or someone wouldn't always be with the green-haired boy to help him, despite continuing to support him and several things there were others that he had to decide on his own to build his own future, and this would undoubtedly be one of the most significant, and he had to overcome it. Izuku stayed in the room thinking about possible paths, depending on what situation takes him, and night came where he finally made a decision. Days later. David's shield had arrived in Japan, but the first day he only met his old friend All Might. He asked about Izuku, but All Might told him that he was busy, and it was the only thing he knew, since the green-haired man had kept it a secret. They chatted a little about the things they experienced and their successes alike, and so another day concluded. Izuku. Very well, now all that remains is to sign this, and I will finally be finished, smiling, without a doubt it will be the best. Next morning, teacher's lounge. Eri. I want to see Dad, I haven't seen him in days, stretching Aizawa's pants, I want to see him, with tears. Aizawa. I don't know where he is, and now that I think about it, I don't even know who is worse. Well, do you know anything, All Might? All Might. Nothing seems strange to me, where are you, young Midoriya? David. Do you think something happened to him? All Might. No, he is capable of defending himself, besides, there would have been great chaos, he is not easy to defeat. As the adult spoke, the doors opened, revealing a happy, smiling Izuku and a formally dressed person carrying a briefcase. Eri. Dad. The little girl ran to Izuku, and he hugged her and then kissed her on the forehead. The man in a suit just looked at the scene happily, but put on a serious face again. Sir. Remember what we came for. Izuku. Sorry, it's the emotion of the moment. Eri. Did something happen? Izuku. Yes, and it's very good, I'll explain it in the quickest and simplest way. I haven't been seeing you these last few days since I've been filling out several applications and receiving people to see various things, also since I'm a minor they didn't think about helping me, but they managed to trust me when they saw that I was a responsible hero. Eri. But what's all that for? Izuku. Look Eri, the next thing I'm going to tell you must assimilate it in the best way, understood? If you want and agree, you can become my daughter-in-law. Eri. Does that mean you can be my dad, my only dad? Izuku. Yes, that's right. Eri. I accept. They both hugged and the person took out a pen and a sheet of paper from the briefcase. Sir. Now that we have the minor's approval and her personal information such as age, gender, blood type, and so on, we can proceed to make it legal. The first thing is the signature of the new parent or guardian. Izuku. I'll do it right now. Izuku held the pen and signed, but not before reading the entire contract, but he had already done it before, although he did it again in case anything changed. Sir. But we also require a witness. Aizawa. I can take care of that, signs, done. Sir. And finally, a relative of the new parent or guardian. All Might saw the scene and thought that Izuku would feel somewhat sad and would have to explain everything, but he felt someone put a hand on his chest and felt a small, somewhat elongated object. Izuku. Would you do me the honor? All Might. Really? Izuku. Please, smiling. All Might wiped away a tear that ran down his cheek and proceeded to sign the sheet concluding all the steps. Sir. Now with the power granted to me by the officials, servers, colleagues, legislative and others, I declare the adoption process of the minor Eri Midoriya finalized. As her new and official guardian Izuku Midoriya, he will have full charge of the minor until she comes of age, and if he gets married, there will be no problem. Now without further ado I leave, may you have a good and happy life, picks up the sheet, closes the briefcase and leaves. Eri hugged Izuku, and he reciprocated the hug to which All Might joined since Izuku made a sign. The day concluded, and finally after so long Izuku felt that his life was taking a good course again. At night he stayed talking with David's shield, getting to know each other, and agreeing on the day and time to leave Japan. Izuku packed some bags, and also prepared a few letters which were destroyed in pieces, and without putting them together, they left a message. 1 week later, day of the flight. Izuku entrusted Eri to David for a few minutes which he accepted without problems, and Izuku went to leave a piece of the letter in specific places. First he went to Harry's house and left the first part, then he went to the houses of all his UA friends, leaving each respective part of the letter without any order, and ended up in UA, leaving the final part in the infirmary where Harem continued studying. If all the notes were put together the letter was completed and the message it contained could be read, but right now a green-haired man with a mask could be seen flying through the skies towards a distant destination, while each of his acquaintances and friends put the notes together. Izuku. Now that I think about it, I didn't leave any note to Nijiro-san, nor to Mirio-san and Tamaki-san, I'll send them a message, after all they know that I'm alive, smiling. So the green-haired boy fell asleep on the plane, and it continued flying through the skies where a new destination, new acquaintances and friendships as well as new problems and other old ones awaited them. Since on the same plane you could see how a person's hand melted and turned to mud but regenerated instantly, and another had a very sadistic look. New home, new life. Izuku got off the plane with Eri and David, who was on the phone to find out where the taxi that would pick them up would be. Eri didn't understand the language the people were speaking, which alarmed her a little, but Izuku managed to calm her down, and finally the taxi arrived. The three of them got in and were taken to an apartment building. Izuku. Do you live in an apartment? David. Yes, although I'm almost never there since most of the time I sleep in my laboratory, but my daughter is there. Eri. What are you saying? David. We're going to have to teach her to speak English. Izuku. And yes, I don't think it's a problem, she's very intelligent, rubs his hair. Eri. What are you talking about? Izuku. You're welcome, we'll just teach you to speak English. Eri. Okay. The three of them got in, and upon entering the apartment they could see that it was quite comfortable and somewhat elegant. There were photos of David with his daughter, paintings and so on. David. My daughter will arrive at 5:30 and she already knows you're here. I have to go to work, but I'll be back tomorrow, see you. Izuku. Yes. David left and Izuku left his suitcase next to Eri's on the sofa and then looked around the entire apartment in detail. Izuku finally sat down and saw that Eri didn't understand any English because some advertisements could be seen outside the building in the distance. Izuku. Come on Eri, let's study English. Eri. Okay. 2 hours later. Eri. I'm not understanding anything. Izuku. It's going to be more complicated than I thought. The door opened and a blonde-haired woman a little shorter than Izuku walked in. She had a backpack and glasses. She was dressed in white pants and a red vest. Her eyes were blue and she had long hair. When she walked in, she could see Izuku sitting next to Eri. Melissa. Oh, yes, you're here. Let me introduce myself, I'm Melissa Shield. Izuku. Oh, I'm Izuku Midoriya, nice to meet you. They shake hands. This is my daughter Eri. Melissa. Be by blood. Surprised. Izuku. Oh no, the story is a bit long. Melissa. I have no problem, from now on you will live with us, so we should get to know each other well. Izuku. Do you know how to speak Japanese? Melissa. Yes, why? Izuku. Well, Eri can't speak English and when we speak it without her she feels out of place. Melissa. Oh, for me there is no problem. Izuku. Well, I hope it is not complicated to understand. Izuku began to explain how he met the little girl that rainy day and how he gave her a cake. Later he explained all the work that was done to track her location and what it deserved, and in the end the big fight that unleashed everything, resulting in the imprisonment of Chisaki along with the other 7 percepts. He also explained that the little girl had a great quirk but that it was very difficult to control, but she would do it one day. Melissa. And what about you, what is your quirk? Izuku. Ah, well, it's something complicated. Melissa. Why? Izuku. It's that I have 2 quirks. Melissa. What? That's incredible, there had never been a person with 2 quirks. Izuku. Well, many things happened in my life that led to that result. Eri. Now that I think about it, I don't know your story very well either, Dad. Izuku. Fine, I'll tell you everything about me, but promise me you'll keep it a secret. Eri. Melissa. Yes. Izuku. Well, then I should start when he was a child. Izuku remembered his life as a child and began by explaining that as a child he was quirkless, which surprised Melissa since she was too, but also caused more doubts in the aforementioned and her daughter. Izuku continued telling how his life was until the day he met Almight. Izuku. One for All is a power transmitted from bearer to bearer. To acquire it, the current bearer must give a DNA sample to the successor and also accept that the successor is capable of supporting it and receiving them being worthy, since if the bearer does not wish to transmit his quirk, it will not be possible to give it to anyone else or steal it. Melissa. Oh, it's somewhat confusing, Uncle Almight never wanted to explain it to me. Izuku. Well, I'll continue telling. Izuku explained the training regimen he had to be able to withstand One for All at a very low level, followed by that he explained his journey through UA and told the event that radically changed his life, his kidnapping by the League of Villains, and how he was used as a guinea pig by them to use it against All Might since he possessed One for All. Izuku. How I got my second quirk is something strange, if I'm not mistaken, I think the League doctor had said that I always had a quirk but had not awakened, and with the illegal surgeries they had somehow activated it, so when a spark of fire fell on my shoulder I was completely burned, but it did not hurt, and that was how I discovered my second quirk, but they erased it from my memories for a period of time. Later Izuku recounted the fight between the heroes and the League of Villains where he died along with his parents and Stain. From there, when they found him, the story of Eri began. Melissa. You've lived a lot for your young age. Izuku. I know, but there have always been people supporting me. Melissa. And your old friends think you're still dead, right? Izuku. It's the best thing for now, they should get stronger like me, and if I come back I'll only hurt them, in the future I'm sure I'll see them. Melissa. It's understandable although it could be a somewhat risky decision. Izuku. You can't win anything if you don't risk something. Melissa. Well now we know each other better, are you hungry? Eri. Yes. Melissa. Well then I'll prepare something. Izuku. I'll help you, Eri wait here. Eri. I want to help. Izuku. Okay but be careful. So the rest of the day passed where Izuku went out to train while Eri was asleep and Melissa did some schoolwork. Izuku was running through a park and could finally stop wearing his mask since here he was not known at all and the story only stayed in Japan. On the other hand he saw that he had grown a little more and his muscle mass increased. Izuku. Sometimes I think that my growth is somewhat accelerated. Izuku continued running and doing some basic exercises like push-ups, sit-ups and bars until he saw a teenager his same age running by who looked too much like Uraraka. Izuku. That's not normal. And behind her you could see a man with a large scar on his forehead. Izuku stared at him and his head started to hurt remembering everything that happened to him with the League of Villains and he saw that same man without the mask but with the twice costume. Izuku. It can't be them, but Og and I promised not to get into trouble. Izuku ran after them and they realized so they increased the pace through the people dodging people, stalls, cars and so on. Izuku. It's them without a doubt, I have to catch up with them. Izuku continued running through the streets until the people entered a hotel and Izuku went after them. Upon entering he could see that the two were at the counter waiting for him. Izuku. What are you doing here? Twice. We came to rent a room like we planned, don't you remember? Winks. Toga. Yes, can you rent us a room now? Cashier. Okay, room 53, gives Toga a key. Toga. Thanks, let's go. Upon arriving at the room, Toga went to the bathroom and changed into his real appearance and dressed in his usual clothes. Izuku. Are you going to explain to me what you're doing here? Toga. Such a refreshing bath. Sits on the bed drying his hair. Izuku. This isn't a game, you're criminals and. Twice. Not here. Izuku. Here and anywhere in the world, what you did is a crime. Twice. But they don't know who we are. Toga. Look, we left Japan because we want to start a new life without crimes. Izuku. And they expect me to believe it. Arms crossed. Toga. That's partly why I want to tell you something important, I don't want to be hidden anymore, I'm fed up if I continue to have my psychopathic tendencies, but I managed to control myself. Izuku. Really? Toga. I don't have a knife with me, check it out. Izuku lightly checked Toga and made sure she didn't have any weapons. Isaac. So you plan to avoid all the years you should be in jail by living a new life here. Toga. Exactly, and we want to help you. Izuku. Help me with what? Toga. On your way back so you can kick the old man all for one's face in, he threatened to kill us. Twice. That's why we decided to follow you and get your attention to warn you. Izuku. I won't take my eyes off them, I won't trust words alone. Twice. Don't worry, Toga rented the room next door to where you currently live. Isaac. What? Toga. I'm going to show you that if I want to make a real change, then I'll live with a hero. What's more, I want you to help me move. Smiling. Izuku looked at the smile, and his mind went back to remembering the events of the League of Villains, but this time they weren't bad. On the contrary, he remembered how he slept peacefully in Toga's lap, how she cared for and fed him, as well as pampered him a little, experiencing a stage never seen before, and how once in a while she kissed him on the mouth. The green-haired boy held his head lightly with one hand and felt Toga rest her hand on his, smiling at him, which surprised him, but he broke the grip. Izuku. I also did bad things when I was on your side, so for now I'll pretend you didn't do anything, but with the first crime or delinquent act I'll send you to prison, understood? Oath? Yes. Izuku. What am I doing? On the one hand I feel bad for letting two potential assassins free here and on the other I feel good since I'm giving them another chance to show their trust, whatever it is I hope I'm not wrong, and I'll let time pass to see what happens, for now I should worry about getting back into action as soon as possible. Izuku shook both of their hands and they went to the apartment building to help Toga. For the first time Izuku was pleasantly surprised regarding the League of Villains, since there was no utensil to marry except a knife, but it was for the kitchen, so he couldn't deny it. At first he was somewhat paranoid although he hid it, but everything was in order and he saw a photo of him being hugged by Toga and he is smiling. Izuku held it with one hand and looked at it in detail. Izuku. Who took this photo? Toga. Twice, cleaning his room. Izuku. How do you know which photo I'm talking about if you haven't seen it before? Toga. I only have pictures of you and all of them were taken by Twice. Izuku. Oh, that's a logical answer, although somewhat disturbing, but at the same time fascinating. Toga. Why? Izuku. Because it's the first time that you don't look like a serial killer and instead look like a teenager with a bright future. Toga left the room and looked at the picture and then smiled. Toga. It may not be noticeable because of the mask, but at that moment you were asleep. For the first time in so long I don't feel the need to hide, and that's amazing. Izuku shook his head and didn't let words be enough, he had to have some confidence, but what would matter most now would be actions. Izuku. I have to go to my apartment if you need anything. Toga. Okay, I think I have everything covered. Izuku left the apartment and went to his own, where he found Eri still asleep and Melissa in her room asleep too. It was already night, so Izuku lay down on the couch to rest. Back in action. A year and a half had passed since Izuku's arrival in the United States. Many things had happened in his daughter, but nothing bad since he had people he could trust and they in him. His recovery was going faster than planned, and maybe he could return to fighting normally. Right now the green-haired boy woke up to the noise of his cell phone and got out of bed to go to the kitchen. A year and a half of rigorous training and attempts made the green-haired boy currently measure 1.89 centimeters and have more muscle mass. His somewhat curly hair remained the same and his typical attitude intact. The green-haired boy took his phone and saw that he had a message from David, who was helping the police with equipment administering powerful weapons or helping to locate people related to robberies, thefts, murders, etc. Izuku. Let's see, it says. Izuku, I have to ask you that when you see this, you come urgently to my police laboratory. There is something I need you to see and help me. Well, it seems I will have work to do. Izuku went to the bathroom to get ready, and when he left he went to Eri's room where she was sleeping next to Melissa, so Izuku left the apartment in the direction of David's laboratory. He was on the subway when he received an urgent call from David saying that something bad was about to happen, so Izuku got off at the nearest station and ran with the one for all, which he could dominate by 40%, and when he arrived at the laboratory he saw that David was passing energy to what appeared to be a blue metal sphere, while Almight, who came to visit from time to time, was taking out all the people. Izuku. What's wrong? David. This thing you see here is a time bomb with the force to destroy everything around it up to 15 blocks around. We can't deactivate it or get it out of here, because if we do it will explode. Izuku. And what's the energy for? David. So that it remains active and the counter doesn't turn off. Izuku. And what do you want me to do? David. I know it sounds very risky, but we have a theory. Izuku. Tell me. David. If you enter the capsule and start producing energy along with what I'm administering to you while you follow my steps to deactivate it, it could work. Izuku. But if we fail? David. Many people will die, but the police are already working on it, taking everyone out and establishing a perimeter. It will be ready in a minute, go get ready. Izuku. I can't get help from Almight, right? David. We're already old, this is very complicated for us, but right now help with the perimeter. Izuku. Fine, just let me do something. Izuku left the apartment and went to Almight running as fast as he could and asked for his radio to come back later. Izuku. Get out of here, give me the instructions from a safe place. David. I'm not going to leave you here. Izuku. You already stabilized the energy, I just have to go and go. David. Be careful. David left and got into his car to go to the secure perimeter. Izuku. Okay, time to go in. Izuku entered through a small door and activated the one for all, beginning to release small rays which were absorbed by the sphere. He felt more and more tired when David spoke to him. David. Izuku, can you hear me? Izuku. Tell me, what should I do? David. You have to open the sphere. To do that, hold it with both hands on its sides and stretch opening it. Izuku followed the steps and managed to open it, but a discharge of red energy ran through his body and then collided with the glass and left a crack. David. Well, if we're not mistaken there should be 15 buttons in total. Izuku. Yes, there are 15. David. Good, now you must press them in this order from left to right. 1739628. Izuku. Well, let's see. 1739628, done. David. Nothing has happened. Izuku. So far an odd. Izuku's arm seemed to be burned by electricity, but he resisted the pain. Izuku. What else? David. Now you must press the buttons consecutively from right to left. Izuku. Okay, ready. The sphere takes out some 5 colored cables that can be exchanged between each one. What is this? David. Did some cables come out? Izuku. 5 specifically. David. When the right time comes you must cut the 2 red ones. Izuku. Okay, then I'll wait. The burns rose higher and higher up Izuku's arm, causing great pain. While Almight and David listened, the 2 red cables appeared and Izuku pulled them out instantly and it deactivated, so Izuku dropped it to the ground. David. Did it work? Izuku. I think so. Izuku was about to leave when a small beep was heard and an explosion of red energy destroyed everything around about 15 streets around as they had anticipated, and everyone present had seen the explosion in a safe place. Almight. No. The energy went throughout the ground without hurting anyone and disappeared. The authorities quickly entered the place and found Izuku unconscious under the rubble, so they transferred him to a hospital where he stayed all afternoon. Hours passed and they let in the visitors, which were Eri, Melissa, Toga, David, Almight and Twice. Everyone was waiting for him to wake up when they saw him move a finger and slowly wake up to see Eri's eyes tearful while she hugged him. Izuku. What happened? Eri. I thought you were never going to wake up again. Crying. Izuku. I'm really sorry, but I only remember an explosion. Melissa. Everything was broadcast on TV, a red energy wave caused a huge explosion, and you were the only one there. Izuku. How good? Toga. Looks at him seriously, how good? Izuku. Oh no, Toga, you know what I mean. Toga. What could you have died from? Izuku. Of course not, not only that, the good thing was that there weren't more people who suffered the same as me. Twice. Calm down Toga-chan, we must see the best. Toga. Sorry, it's just that it distresses me to think that one of these days you won't come back. Toga had become along with Twice members of a group of secret police due to all the faults they had, but they showed that they wanted to be better people, although in any case, they continued to have their somewhat manic attitudes from time to time, but they controlled them. Izuku. But in the end everything turned out well, if you could say so. Melissa. Well, until that, since you will only have to be on rest for a few days. Former prison in Washington. It came out so perfectly, it was incredible. I never think I've seen or been able to work with such an amount of power. In front of a thin-looking man, blonde hair with a somewhat long beard and blue eyes, dressed formally, was what appeared to be an energy receiver, which was working with the red energy shockwave. Yes, it's incredible, but you must be careful. Do you think I don't know? I was the one who did all these experiments, and that the explosion to release the energy of the sphere was possible. I know more than anyone the danger it warrants, but it can also give us great power. You're crazy, but you work very well. But if we want this to work, we'll have to get several things. You tell me and I'll get everything you need. The essential thing is that the prototype is very functional, but I feel that maybe the body can't handle it. The big flaw is that the human body is not made to withstand such an amount of energy. And how could the other boy on television? I don't know, he was a hero, maybe a quirk related to energy or arduous training. Or some modification. It could be. First, I'll try to find some information about the boy to see if there's anything useful to us. We must. You focus on making sure the prototype doesn't fail. The thin man stared at the man in front of him with short black hair and a scar that ran from his eyebrow over his eye, which looked completely white to his jaw. He was thick-muscled, similar to Almight or Endeavor, and dressed casually. The man left the abandoned prison, which was in the middle of nowhere. That idiot puts my entire investigation in progress, and I'm not going to let him ruin it. Take care of yourself, damn Tayson. Military base, 3 days later. The man was thrown against a hangar door and then brutally beaten in the face and knocked out. The man named Tayson tore the door off with one hand and entered the hangar. Well, many sirens sounded, but many or most of the officers were unconscious and some with fatal injuries. Tayson. Let's see, here there is supposed to be some kind of supercomputer or something like that. There is one in every country in the world that connects all the presidents for an important meeting when they can't go out, or so it is assumed. Tayson began to search the entire hangar when out of nowhere he managed to see that in the ground there was a small crack. If it were a house it would be normal, but considering that it was an armored hangar protected by the military, he began to kick the ground very hard until he managed to unearth what appeared to be a decoder that asked for a fingerprint. Tayson. It seems that it will be more complicated than I thought. Tayson left the place and searched one by one throughout the afternoon with the patience of a snake to bite its victim, and nothing ever managed to open the box, so he decided to use brute force. He stood in front of the decoder and his eyes began to release small discharges of red energy, while his fists more specifically were completely red and creating rays around them. Tayson gave him 3 strong blows in total until the decoder broke, letting him enter what appeared to be an underground vault. Being there, he found the supercomputer or whatever it was and searched for all kinds of data related to Izuku until he found the news videos related to his death, kidnapping and security camera videos of interrogations of some members of the League of Villains in Japan. Tayson. Who the hell is this kid? He returned from the dead and was genetically modified to be a weapon of mass destruction, but he managed to break free. The good thing is that our prototype is easier to control and without a will of steel, but leaving that aside, it's incredible how he fights. He looks like a tiger hunting a gazelle. Tayson saved some of the files to a memory stick and left the place, jumping into the sea to swim to a nearby port where he would board a boat to return. 3 days later, the prison was abandoned. The thin man was removing and putting some cables in what they called a test prototype to supply the red energy when out of nowhere the door opened and Tayson was in front of that man. Tayson. Murden, I have important information. Murden. I'm busy. Tayson. It's important, I tell you as the first prototype. Murden. The first is not always the best. Tayson. But you're basing yourself on me so you don't make the same mistakes. Murden. What do you want me to see? Tayson connected the memory to a nearby computer and displayed all the data he had saved. Murden. He is everything that a good unstoppable prototype could do, he could take as reference each and every one of the procedures to create a truly destructive weapon. Tayson. But there's something about the boy that I don't understand. Murden. If I don't understand either, how is a human being capable of having 2 quirks? Tayson. If he finds out everything it will be a big problem. Murden. But if I can finish the prototype in time I could test it on him. Tayson. I'm just telling you, he's not someone we should take lightly, after all he's the third to survive being exposed to energy. Murden. Yes, I know, seeing as he's a cop now he's probably trying to find and decipher what happened, don't let him. Tayson. And you don't fail. Murden. Now please I need time to finish. Tayson. Fine, I'll make sure everything is okay and as it should be, leaves the lab and jail, I think it's time to go back to the city. The devastating first encounter. A week passed since Tayson had returned to the city and he was studying Izuku from the shadows, he already knew his past, but he wanted to know more about his abilities, not only by observing how he stopped thieves, but with his training, he was someone quite calm and trained open to the public, he did not mind being seen. Which was a great advantage for Tayson who did not miss a day without going to the park near his apartment and to the police office to which he was transferred after the explosion. On the other hand, Izuku felt small shocks from time to time and could see how a small green ray passed through his fingers while another red one surrounded it that seemed strange to him and was almost impossible to see because of how fast it was. He had only told David so as not to worry anyone else, but there were no repercussions, so it was not bad at all. Tayson received daily calls from Murden, who said that the prototype was advancing in terms of daily progress and would be ready in a few days or a few weeks at most. Tayson just nodded while studying each and every one of Izuku's movements. One day Tayson was very surprised to see the aforementioned rays, and that alerted him quite a bit, and he decided that before something bad happened and affected them, he had to get rid of Izuku quickly, and he warned Murden who refused and wanted him to send him videos to see the effect and how the green-haired man reacted to it, but Tayson did not agree. He knew what Murden was like and once seeing such a thing he would say that he would need much more information and time to perfect the prototype, so he refused. Saturday, 2:30 p.m. Ice cream shop. Izuku was spending the afternoon with Eri who had grown a little in all that time, but still had the same positive and loving attitude as always, and with Toga, who was like a source of inspiration for Eri and saw her as a very close person to her. Everything was calm when out of nowhere a strong blizzard and an explosion made people run out and scream, which Izuku of course heard and headed for the exit. Toga was behind him and when Izuku opened the door and took a step outside a red lightning bolt hit him and took him quite far away. Toga. Eri, stay here, go to the warehouse with the others and don't come out until you dad and I arrive. Eri ran to the warehouse with the others and Eri took a knife out of a bag she was carrying. Despite having therapies, she always had a knife with her just in case, without anyone else knowing, in case of self-defense or some of her old fetishes of making cuts. That's why she almost always bought stuffed animals and other things to keep calm by cutting them. Toga came out and could see that Izuku was being beaten by a man who was surrounded by red rays passing around his body quickly. Izuku blocked each of the blows, but for some reason they were very painful, and he felt a shock run through his whole body, plus the one for all felt strange, and that didn't help. Tayson. Midoriya, I thought you would be better. Izuku saw a blow from Tayson coming towards his stomach and caught it with one hand and then hit him in the face without him flinching. Tayson just hit him with his knee in the stomach, making him fall to his knees and began to hit him in the face with both fists repeatedly until he felt someone climb on his back and a knife bury itself in it, so he tried to hold whoever it was, but he felt the knife being unearthed and someone pushing themselves off his back jumping back. Tayson turned around and saw Toga with a knife in her hand with blood on guard. Tayson. So you are the beloved. Toga. I don't know what you're talking about, seriously. Tayson. I know who you are and I know your past, do you think saving a few people will atone for your sins? Toga. Yes. Tayson. You are very wrong, you have incredible potential on the wrong side. Toga. Many told me that and only one managed to convince me. Tayson. And yet you don't say you're the beloved, to think that someone with tremendous potential wasted it. Toga. I take advantage of it my way. Toga ran towards Tayson and began to attack him with punches, kicks and the knife, but he managed to dodge all the attacks until Toga tried to cut his face, but he moved to the side and picked her up and then threw her to the ground, grabbed her by the neck and picked her up again, suffocating her. Tayson. What else are you going to do? Tayson was about to hit her when Toga threw the knife at his face, but he caught it and broke it with his hand. He dropped the remains of it, but Izuku was finally able to activate One for All and ran towards Tayson, knocking him out, making him release Toga and focus on him. Tayson grabbed Izuku by the hip and lifted him up, leaving his head against the ground, and then threw him strongly from that position, hurting Izuku's neck and making him hold his head. Tayson grabbed him by the hair and lifted him up, but Toga grabbed an edge of the knife that Tayson destroyed and threw it, burying it in his cheek. Tayson tried to unbury it, but Izuku hit him with his elbow in the eye and freed himself and then put a finger in the wound and created a very small flame inside it that made him go into shock and fall to the ground. Toga ran towards Izuku, who was looking at Tayson on the ground. Toga. Are you okay? Izuku. I think so, turns to look at her. And you? Toga. Don't worry, but we have to take him. Izuku and Toga approached him, and he grabbed them by the neck and then got up angrily. He threw Toga against a wall, leaving a crack when she collided with it and falling to the ground very injured. On the other hand, Izuku tried to hit him, but he caught the fist and broke his wrist in one movement. Izuku held back a scream of pain, but Tayson let him fall to his feet and then grabbed his wrist and hit him with his elbow in his rib, followed by a blow under the arm with his open hand, breaking it. Izuku was about to scream, but Tayson finished it off with a kick to the stomach that was electrified with red rays. Izuku fell a few meters away in pain, but felt and saw how the combined rays were circulating through all the wounds and were slowly healing him, so he decided to use 40% of One for All, and the healing increased the speed a little. Tayson saw that in amazement and ran towards Izuku when a car here ran over and made it go through the wall of a store. People came to see, and Toga was resting in the driver's seat. Toga. Everything okay? Izuku. Are your therapies working? Izuku got up in pain and walked towards Toga, holding her arm and helped her move and get out of the car. Both were slowly walking away from the place when they heard how the car was pushed and they saw how Tayson came out of the store with many wounds and a large cut on his head that was making him bleed. Tayson. Do you think we're done? Tayson put a hand on the car and slowly got up and then removed some of the blood that was running down his forehead. He looked at both of them, and Izuku ran towards him to punch him with 40% of One for All in the face with his arm intact and made him fly, destroying several walls of buildings and going through some cars to fall to the ground. Tayson breathed heavily and saw the sky, and then got up and saw how Izuku was heading towards him, so he leaned on a car and began to firmly remove the door of it without being noticed. When Izuku was very close to him, he jumped and Tayson ripped the door completely and hit him in the air, causing him to crash into another car that was nearby and be buried in it. Izuku was bleeding from the mouth when he was grabbed by the arm and removed from the car to later be left on the ground and be hit roughly with the door. Tayson heard footsteps near him and turned behind him to hit the ground with the door. Worse, he didn't see anyone, which was strange, but moments later he felt a blow from a metal crowbar on the back of his neck that made him fall to the ground and leave the door aside. Toga had rolled before and dodged Tayson's attack, as well as avoiding him from seeing her, so now he ran for a sleeping pill. But he saw out of the corner of his eye that Tayson was getting up, so he threw the crowbar at him, hitting him in the head and making him fall again. Toga saw that he tried to get up, but Izuku grabbed the shovel and put it on Tayson's neck and then put both knees on his back and began to put pressure with the shovel with both hands. Izuku. See, he's in David's car. Toga ran to David's car, which was already destroyed by the explosions, and saw the destroyed sleeping pill. Toga. Shit. Toga came back and saw how Izuku and Tayson were hitting each other without protecting themselves, so she ran towards them and hit him in the back of the head, causing him to duck. Izuku took advantage and hit him with his knee in the face, causing him to get up. Toga hit him with his right fist and Izuku a kick in the stomach. Then Toga jumped and hugged him from behind as if he were a bear and then began to put pressure on his neck while Izuku hit him in the face and stomach to knock the wind out of him. Tayson started to get angry and hit Izuku with his head, making him fall, but just as he fell, he put both hands on the ground and pushed himself to get up and fall on his feet and hit him hard again with his arm. Izuku. It was a bad idea, my arm hurt. Tayson looked more and more tired and weak, so Izuku gave Toga a signal and she jumped off Tayson's back and rolled to the side as Izuku kicked him hard using all his One for All ability and made him crash into the corner of a wall and break it. Tayson grabbed a brick and threw it at Izuku, who destroyed it with a blow and looked at him seriously. Tayson. You're strong, I admit it, but if you keep going like this you won't achieve anything. Izuku. I never stop, I'm always training. Tayson. I know. Izuku stared at him and could see a serious and fierce look, so he approached him. Tayson. What are you going to do? Izuku, without saying a single word, knew that if he left him like that he would recover and the fight would not end as well as the damage, so he turned around and held the door that Tayson used to hit him, and now it was his turn. Izuku hit him hard and brutally like an animal until he knocked him out and the police arrived to take him away. Police. We will take care of the damages, thanks for stopping him, it seems you were strong. Izuku. You're welcome, it's my duty. Police. Do you want me to call an ambulance? Izuku. No, I'll go later, I have something to do. Izuku and Toga walked arm in arm, helping each other to walk, and went to the ice cream shop to pick up Yuri, who hugged them and stood between them. They all went to Izuku's apartment and Melissa called her father, who arrived and took Izuku and Toga to the hospital. David. Tomorrow there will be a lot of news about this. Izuku. At least it won't be bad news. Toga. That's true. David. It looks like you're tired, if you want to rest you can do it. Izuku smiled since Toga was already asleep leaning on the door, so Izuku put her on his shoulder like he did with Eri and fell asleep. At the police station. Tayson woke up and saw that they were about to put him in a fence, so he got up and surprised the police, but only hit them both hard, knocking him out, and then ran out the back door being chased by many policemen. Tayson ran through a mountain which was close while he was chased, and in the distance he saw that there was no way out and he could see a small waterfall. Tayson. If I'm not mistaken, this lake goes quite far, in fact. Tayson continued running although he was quite tired and jumped into the lake, disappearing from the police. Tayson. I'll let the water take me wherever it wants to take me, closes his eyes. Prototype. It had been a week since Tayson had disappeared or was now classified by the authorities as a missing villain with search and retention orders. On the other hand, every night Izuku woke up and for a few moments, he could see a whole red path that lit up as if it was asking him to go, but he couldn't, or rather he didn't want to, because he felt that something bad would happen and he couldn't risk it. His life was getting better and better and he didn't want to lose everything, but he also didn't want to let innocent people suffer, so he was in a dilemma: protect himself and his family or protect everyone, but with devastating results for him. He couldn't make a decision of such magnitude quickly, so he decided to think about it calmly and try to hide it as best he could. Abandoned prison. Tayson could be seen arriving with several wounds that were bandaged and somewhat sore. He walked slowly while limping with his right foot and holding his left arm, which seemed to suffer a contracture. Merton approached him and the first thing he did was take him to a stretcher, where he later introduced him to a large glass cabin. Merton. You already know how the process works. Merton approached a lever and Tayson saw how a kind of tube was inserted into his back and began to transfer incredible amounts of energy that made him heal. Tayson. A little more power. Merton. No, it was enough. Turns off the machine. Your body can only handle that amount of energy. Overexposing yourself would be a catastrophe, and I don't need that now. Tayson. I already fought the boy and I need more power. Merton. I can't give it to you like that, it's a risk I'm not going to take. Tayson. Gets up, but I can. Merton. Are you challenging me? Tayson. If we don't stop it. Merton. The prototype will. Tayson. Well, that prototype doesn't even move and hasn't shown any signs of doing so. That thing will take 1,000 years to work, but you won't notice because of your greed. Merton. And what about you? Won't you realize that if I expose you to that amount of power you will explode like a sausage in a microwave? And I give you that example because it's the only one your stupid and insufficient brain can assimilate, and it has a hard time doing so. They both looked at each other's faces and Tayson lifted Merton, who tried to grab a controller he had on his back, but Tayson caught his hand. Tayson. I'm not as useless as you think. I'm tired of following your lies. Let's see if you can withstand that amount of energy. Tayson threw Merton inside the crystal and took the controller from him and then closed it so he couldn't get out. Merton. You don't know the foolishness you're about to commit. If you stop now I'll forgive you. Tayson. And why do I want your forgiveness? Tayson activated the machine to its maximum potential, but all the rays came out of it and spread across the sky in the same direction. Merton. Turn it off. Tayson. What's happening? Merton. Turn it off, damn it. Tayson turned off the machine and opened the cabin door, letting Merton out, who quickly searched for the waves and frequency of the rays which traveled towards an individual. Merton. You don't know the idiocy you just committed. The machine is programmed to release the rays, but they are directed depending on the amount of power used. If you use maximum anger with a host that can withstand the most force. Tayson. And why didn't it target your prototype? Merton. Because I had my suspicions and this only fulfilled them. The guy you fought with, that Midoriya, is the current host with the greatest resistance and absorption capacity. Tayson. And what's happening now? Merton. Well, we gave him more power. But Izuku. Izuku was in his car when out of nowhere a red ray broke his rear window and entered through his back, leaving him unconscious, causing a collision with another vehicle. The paramedics arrived, and Izuku was already out of the car with a person who did not have any serious injuries, and he had a small cut on his forehead. Police. How did it happen? Izuku. I was driving calmly when suddenly something broke the window of my car from the rear, and I felt as if it entered me, and for a few moments I was unconscious. Police. Okay, well, we will continue asking you. Worry about the car. Do you have insurance? Izuku. I think so. Police. Well, the only thing will be to call a tow truck to take your vehicle away, and everything can continue circulating normally. Izuku. Thank you, officer. Police. You're welcome. I'll hope something similar doesn't happen to him next time. Izuku. Me too. But Murden. Look, now we have to focus on improving and increasing the absorption capacity of my prototype so that the rays are now directed when I activate the machine. Tayson. And how much longer does he have to be better than him? Murden. 2 days. 1 week later. Izuku felt strange every night after the accident. He had dreams about his fight with One for All and seemed to repeat and feel every hit, every kick and every little bit of pain he suffered that day, even the emotional pain. For some strange reason he believed and felt that his past sins tormented him today for not having saved people and killing One, but when the moment of being killed came he saw a strong red light and a hand came out of it stretching to his lifeless body, but just at the moment of touching it, he would wake up or disappear. Fed up with all that, one night he woke up somewhat overwhelmed and went to the roof of a building where he strangely met Twice. He had gone because Melissa had called him, somewhat worried since she had woken up from a whipping and did not see Izuku anywhere, so she asked him to look for him. Flashback. Twice. Sits next to Izuku. What's wrong with you? Izuku. I'm overwhelmed. Twice. Why? Izuku. I'm having strange dreams about the day I died. Twice. And everything is the same as that day. Izuku. Almost everything except when I die a hand appears and behind it there is a bright red light, but when it's about to touch me it disappears or I wake up. Twice. Wow, the truth is I don't know what's happening to you, but let me give you some advice from someone who lived overwhelmed due to his clones. No matter what happens, no matter how much damage you do or receive, no matter if you were or bad, you know who you are, but you don't know what you want. You could want something material, but deep down, maybe you just want someone to spend your days with, or maybe you want to be a murderer, I don't know. This world is full of possibilities, and despite having our flaws and sins we can all heal. Your girlfriend and I are proof of that. Izuku. She's not my girlfriend. Twice. Of course, I forgot that you haven't declared your love yet. Izuku. Why would I? Twice. And this is exactly what I was talking about, but one day you'll realize you're young. Izuku. If you say, and what about your partner? Twice. Well, we've been dating for 2 years and we live together. I want to take it a step further, but I don't know if it's still time. Izuku. So you want to get married? Twice. That's what I'm talking about. When you're with the right person, no matter the fights or arguments, there's always a moment of peace, and deep down in your heart, you want to be with him or her every day. I discriminate. Izuku. Idiot. Laughing. Me neither. Twice. Well, the best thing is for him to come back, and you too, my girlfriend. Izuku. Future wife. Twice. Exactly, she has a fever and I can't leave her alone for long. See you. Izuku. It was nice seeing you. Twice. See you every week. Smiling. Present. Izuku was asleep and on top of him on his chest was Eri with a book. Izuku was still a little sleepy, but he could see as if his door was forced, so he got up without waking Eri and quietly approached one side of the door. He saw that it was 4:50 am and the door opened slowly, showing 3 people. Izuku. He's the guy I fought like 2 weeks ago. This is going to get ugly. Izuku took out his cell phone and lowered the brightness to all, that then sent his location and a message in an open group he had so that someone could see it. Right when he sent the message he was grabbed by the shirt and thrown against the couch. Tayson turned on the lights and there was only him. Tayson. I'm better than ever. Izuku. I didn't need to know that, but well, that means I should give my full potential. Tayson. You won't have the same luck. Tayson ran towards Izuku, but he grabbed a glass of water that was nearby and threw it at his face, breaking the glass and staining it a little. Izuku kicked him in the abdomen, but Tayson responded with a direct blow to the face, knocking him down on the couch. Izuku tried to get up, but Tayson carried him and threw him against the TV, causing a short circuit and waking up Melissa and Eri, who were held and subdued by 2 people. On the other hand, Izuku got up and began to hit Taison's abdomen and face using his maximum capacity with One for All, which was currently 48%. Meanwhile Taison's arms began to look somewhat red and rays of the aforementioned color ran through them at great speed. Taison gave him a powerful blow to the jaw and then grabbed him by the foot and threw him against the wall, strongly destroying it and falling in the apartment to his right. Izuku. Where are you, Toga? Toga. What happened to you? Helps him get up. I heard a lot of commotion and got ready to go. Izuku. The guy came back, but there were two others, and I'm afraid they have Melissa and Eri. Toga. I'll take care of it. Izuku. I'll give you time. Izuku carried Toga and threw her onto the couch and then charged some energy into his arm and fired it with a single finger in the form of compressed air bullets shooting towards Taison. Izuku. It's been a long time since I did this. Taison was barely resisting the bullets until Izuku ran to the couch and then pushed him towards Taison, who caught him with both hands and stopped him. Izuku took advantage and punched him in the face. Izuku. Go. Toga got up and ran to Melissa's room and found two guys, one of them left and hid while the other looked at her strangely. Toga. Leave the girl alone, Melissa, you call someone. Melissa. The communications are down. The guy punched her in the face and knocked her out, leaving her on the bed. Toga. Melissa. Izuku heard Toga scream and ran towards the room, but Taiso intercepted him and tackled him against the glass that faced outside the building. The bad thing was that they were in one of the tallest buildings, and both were plummeting. When they were about to fall, Izuku fired another bullet and managed to avoid the fall to descend slowly. On the other hand, Taison put his hand on the glass and broke them all to slow down slowly. Taison. You won't have help this time. Izuku. And you made me angry. If something happened to him, I'll. Taison. Prove it. Izuku clenched his fist and saw that in the distance a truck was close and was about to pass by, so he hit him in the stomach. That left Taison without air and then fired a burst of compressed air bullets which sent Taison flying and made him crash into the truck that luckily only the driver was in was not damaged. Izuku. I have to go up. Izuku looked up and saw Toga falling quickly, so he waited and managed to catch her. Izuku. What happened inside? Toga. It's very strong. Izuku. Are Eri and Melissa okay? Toga. I don't know, Melissa was knocked unconscious by a blow and Eri was asleep. It seems like she was put to sleep with something. Izuku. Stay here, you must rest, I can't let them hurt you too. Toga. Be careful, it's strong. Toga fainted in Izuku's arms and he entered the building to leave her lying on one of the armchairs in the waiting room. Izuku. Are the police coming? Manager. It will take 5 minutes. Izuku. Fine, Manager. Just stop her, she's putting everyone in danger. Izuku left the building and used his strength to run quickly between the walls until he reached his apartment where he saw a long white hair with touches of red. Izuku. Leave my daughter alone. The beginning of a war. Izuku saw what looked like a woman turn towards him, but the darkness of the night prevented him from seeing her. Izuku activated One for All, creating rays that passed around his body, which illuminated the room for a moment, but he could only see a somewhat old guy. Murden. Shit. Izuku. Leave her. Izuku ran towards Murden, who was injecting something into Melissa, but Izuku kicked him hard that made him go through the door, leaving him unconscious. Izuku. Melissa, wake up. Takes the needle from her, apparently he hasn't injected the liquid yet. Izuku carried Melissa and put her in Eri's room together. Izuku turned around and felt like someone light fell on his back and began to squeeze his neck, but out of nowhere, red rays began to be transferred from Izuku's body to the body of the prototype, leaving behind the white hair to make it completely black. Izuku grabbed an arm of his attacker, but felt an even more powerful shock, only this time it didn't hurt. It seemed to be a slight blood draw, but he knew it wasn't that until out of nowhere he felt no weight on his shoulders and turned around to see a thin woman dressed in black, completely like a sweatshirt, only she was somewhat strange since she had some kind of small horns on her forehead and her skin was red, her eyes too, and she looked fascinated with something. Izuku. What are you? Supplier, pointing at him. Izuku. What? Murden. What is this, some kind of chain reaction? I have to investigate more about it, leaves the place. Izuku. I don't know who or what you are, but you better go. You come. Izuku. No, I have people to protect. Protect. Izuku. She looks like a girl trapped in an adult's body. Izuku tried to get closer, but red rays appeared and went straight to the woman. Taison. It works. Taison was behind the broken door without anyone noticing and had a metal tube in his hand. He walked slowly through the darkest parts until he got to be behind Izuku and took advantage of the distraction to start squeezing it with the tube. The woman got scared and kicked Izuku and then left there. Izuku. You again. Taison. I will follow you to the death. Izuku. I have already challenged her once. Izuku charged energy from One for All on his finger and pointed it at the ground before firing a blast of air that sent them flying through several roofs until they reached the top. Once on top, Izuku got up first, but Taysen started shooting out large amounts of lightning. Izuku. What's wrong with you? Taysen. I don't know, but it'll help me stop you. Taysen ran towards Izuku and he towards him, beginning to hit each other strongly. At one point Taysen grabbed Izuku's face and kicked him in the stomach and then carried him and tried to throw him to the ground, but Izuku grabbed one of Taysen's hands and began to burn himself, causing his rival to release him. Izuku extinguished the fire in his body and Taysen threw a ray towards Izuku, which impacted directly in the chest and made him fall from above onto a metal bench, which destroyed by the impact. Izuku was getting up when out of nowhere, Taysen arrived and put him lying face up and then began to hit him with both fists, which had a large charge of red energy. They were powerful, and Izuku began to bleed from the nose and mouth from each blow he received despite trying to stop them. Taysen got fed up and grabbed Izuki's hair and then picked him up and carried a lot of energy in his right fist. Taysen. Let me show you what it feels like. Taysen gave him a powerful blow that caused an explosion of red rays that ran through both of their bodies. On one hand, Taysen was standing in the same place with some part of his clothes torn, but Izuku had been shot like a bullet going through a car and falling in the middle of the street with many injuries. Izuku. I feel weak, apart from the fact that he got better. Izuku put a hand on the cart to support himself and be able to stand up, but Taysen kicked him in the face, making him fall again. Taysen. It's not very pretty, you made me suffer that day, it was my turn to make you suffer. Izuku grabbed Taysen by the neck and he began to hit him, but Izuku began to expel a large amount of flames from his hands, burning Taysen, who refused to let him go. At one point Taysen broke free from the grip and tried to hit Izuku, but he began to run through the streets, starting a chase between the two. Taysen. Takes out a cell phone and calls Murden. Where are you? Murden. With the prototype. Murden. Go to the center of the city on Bringston Street, I will take the boy to that place and you ram him. Murden. Well, I'm on my way, hangs up the call. The good thing is that we have transportation. The chase was going as planned, and when they reached Bringston Street, a truck tried to run over Izuku, but he managed to dodge it and Taysen jumped towards Izuku to try to grab him. On the other hand, Izuku turned around facing Taysen and with 50% of One for All, he gave him a tremendous blow to the face that left him unconscious and made him crash into the hood of the car, leaving him stuck. Izuku. This is over. Murden. Remember to pull the trigger and aim with your right eye. Izuku. Get out of the truck now. Murden. Stay here. Murden got out of the truck with a backpack and Izuku stared at him. Izuku. What's in the backpack? Murden. None of your business. Izuku. What do you have there? Izuku walked towards Murden and grabbed him by the shoulders, but suddenly the shot of a gun was heard and Izuku fell to the ground. Murden. A few more just in case, shoots Izuku's stomach 2 more times. Izuku was on the ground slowly bleeding out and he saw blurry how Murden put Taysen in the truck and the woman stared at him strangely, but then they left. Izuku began to bleed a lot, not only from the place where the shot was but also from the mouth and a little from the ear due to the hard fall. The paramedics arrived and took Izuku to the emergency room. 10 hours later. Izuku woke up in a hospital room as the sun's rays reflected off a glass of water next to him. Izuku noticed that he had several wounds, all of which had been treated and left marks. The bullets were gone, which was obvious, but something that was strange was that very small rays could be seen passing through the wounds every 2 or 3 minutes, as if they were healing him. Izuku. Ah, it was a very difficult fight, that guy is getting stronger and stronger. Doctor. I see you're waking up. Izuku. Will it be expensive? Doctor. Don't worry, they're already doing all the necessary paperwork. Plus, you have hero insurance, so don't be alarmed. Izuku. And how long will I be here? Doctor. I couldn't tell you exactly, your wounds sometimes recover very quickly and sometimes very slowly, but a minimum time would be about 2 weeks. Izuku. Thank you, doctor. Doctor. Well, I'll leave you and get ready for the visits. Izuku. Understood. Izuku rested his head on the pillow and raised one of his hands, remembering the previous night, more specifically the woman. The door opened and several people he didn't know entered. Izuku. Good afternoon. Police. We are from a police department in Washington. Izuku. And what are you doing here? Police. We need you to help us with something, be 100% honest. Izuku. Is it to solve a crime? Police. Yes. Izuku. Fine, I have no problem. Several questions were asked by the police, minutes passed, and something was wrong, since almost nothing could be heard outside the room. Police. Fine, finally, on a scale from 1 to 10, how weak do you feel? Izuku. What does that have to do with anything? Izuku saw a policeman absent-mindedly lock the door, so he stood up, and all the policemen took out electric batons to subdue him by electrocuting him. Izuku grabbed one of the police officers and pulled out a flame from his fire that burned his clothes, as a result of which the others helped him take off his clothes so he wouldn't be burned to death, and when he finished Izuku fired a strong gust of wind that left everyone unconscious. Izuku lay down on the bed and felt very tired, but then he heard a siren and David quickly entered the room. David. I'm glad you're okay, approaches Izuku and helps him get up. We have to go, apparently a group of mercenaries came for us. Izuku. For the whole hospital. David. Not just us, our friends and family. David and Izuku left the room, but a man hit David hard in the face, leaving him unconscious, and Izuku grabbed him by the neck and then threw him towards the window, cracking it. Izuku. One for all, full cowl. Izuku ran towards David and carried him, then went straight towards the man and tried to dodge him, but the man caught him by the face and took him back against the window. David was now on the ground and the man's fist became made of metal. Izuku. Fu. The man covered Izuku's mouth and began to hit him hard in the stomach and then undid the grip and kicked him, crashing the glass even more. The man took a few steps back to gain momentum and ran towards Izuku to charge him, but he moved out of the way and the man broke the window, falling from the top of the building. Izuku. David react, we have to go, crawls to David, he is still unconscious. Izuku tried to activate One for All again, but he no longer had energy, so he fell to the ground exhausted, and several men entered the room and put him in a kind of blanket like David. Izuku couldn't see anything, but out of nowhere, he felt how he fell abruptly to the ground, and blows could be heard. Izuku took off the blanket and could see Toga in front of him. Izuku. Hey. Toga. Izuku, I finally found you, we have to go out. Izuku. Take David out, he's unconscious in that blanket, I'll go out, I'll be behind you. Toga. Okay, but you better not get lost again. Toga took the blanket from David and carried him and then ran out of the place. On the other hand, Izuku opened a door and went to the window to see how tall the building was. Izuku. I think I can withstand this fall, it's only about 20 meters. Izuku charged a little force in his finger and shot at the window, cracking it quite a bit. He then leaned his back against it and shot again to get out of there. When the impact fell, it broke a rib, and Izuku only felt his body regenerate little by little, as he felt the union of his broken bones again, but at a very slow pace. Izuku. I have to stop with all this nonsense, I could have used the stairs. Izuku rested his head on the ground, and just at that moment inside the hospital, there was an explosion and several blocks passed right over Izuku, but none managed to hit him. Izuku. Well, after all, it was a good idea. 1 month later. Izuku still had bandages on his body, more specifically on the rib due to the break, but he already felt much better. The day of the assault on the hospital, the television stations covered the entire news and went to interview him several times. Lately he had been gaining much more fame due to all the events and was number 5 of the most beloved beginner heroes and number 1, but of the most outstanding and skilled. Izuku was having breakfast in his apartment with Eri, who saw Izuku's wounds, and they both noticed that Toga entered the kitchen. Toga. Good morning, sits in front of them, how are you, little one? Smiling. Eri. Fine, although I'm worried about my dad. Toga. Now what did he do? Eri. His wounds opened once, but he self-medicated. Toga looked at Izuku and he just turned on the TV absent-mindedly, but Toga looked at him seriously. Izuku. I didn't know she was awake at that time, she's normally asleep. Toga. It's not just the fact that I saw you, but the doctor said that it was very likely that the wounds would open and that you should go with him. Izuku. Sorry, I know I did wrong, but it was 12 p.m. Toga. Seriously, what you have of skill you have of stubbornness sometimes. Izuku. I'm sorry, I don't know what I would do if you guys didn't scold me sometimes, smiling. Eri. You would be very bad, but that's why I'm here. Izuku. Yes, I know, thank you, it's more for taking such good care of me, I will compensate you with whatever you want. Toga. And won't you reward me? Izuku. It's not funny. Eri. I want to skip school tomorrow. Izuku. No, you just started your first year of education, you can't miss it. Eri. Please. Izuku. That's not up for discussion. Eri. Fine, then do my homework. Izuku. Eri, are you having problems at school? Toga. If so, we can help you. Eri. Really? Izuku. Of course, we will always be here to help you, we are family and family is there to help and protect each other, come on, bring your notebooks. Eri. I won't be long. Izuku. Moments like this make me remember how lucky I am. City in danger. It had only been 2 days since the fight between Izuku and the prototype had been, and a lot of news had him in the spotlight. Several sources of electricity had been sabotaged or their function had stopped abruptly, and because of that things were quite calm. Although Izuku knew it was almost time for him to return to Japan, he promised himself to return to find his old friends at the last sports festival they would have, and he couldn't miss that. But the life he has at this moment with other loved ones, he didn't want to leave either. Izuku was thoughtful when Melissa entered his room since he hadn't answered when they called him because he was in his thoughts. "Melissa? Are you feeling okay?" "Izuku? I'm just thoughtful." "Melissa? It's about your past, right?" "Izuku? Yes, I don't know what to do anymore, I want the best for everyone but..." "Melissa? Regardless of whether you leave or stay, you will be happy." "Izuku? But I don't want to lose this lifestyle, but I also don't want to lose my old friends forever." "Melissa? You will make the right decision, you have always done it since I knew you, you have protected us and made us happy in many ways." "Izuku? You guys too, you gave me a home." "Melissa? Maybe, but you made us a closer family, why are we not?" "Izuku? Yes, we are family," smiles. Izuku got up as his phone started vibrating and he answered the call from Almight, who was currently in Japan. "Izuku? Is something wrong, Almight?" "Almight? Nothing out of the ordinary, I just wanted to say hello and tell you that I have a surprise for you." "Izuku? I don't know if I'm coming back yet." "Almight? I don't mean that, it will arrive in a day or two." "Izuku? Well then I will put it on my to-do list to give you something." "Almight? Well I was just calling for that, I have to teach classes, see you young Midoriya." "Izuku? Yes, Almight." Izuku hung up the call and a text message from David arrived. "Izuku? Melissa, I'm going out, can you take care of Yuri?" "Melissa? Sure." "Izuku? I'll see you guys later." Police station, 20 minutes later. Izuku ran to the police station and there was a large circle of people and in the middle of them, you could see a person being treated by paramedics. "David? Midoriya?" "Izuku? David, what happened?" "David? You know there have been certain problems with the electricity, well he was repairing an electric pole when out of nowhere a red lightning passed through the entire city quickly and hit him, making him fall and electrocuting him, but for some reason he is fine for now, although he says he is very hot." "Izuku? Was there no more damage?" "David? Not just him." Izuku went out for a few moments to take a notebook out of the car he was in to ask the man some questions and write down his answers when everyone quickly ran out. "Izuku? What's going on?" "Police." His chest turned red, it looks like it's going to explode. Izuku quickly entered the station and took out all the important files in a matter of seconds. When he had finished and was about to leave, the man's eyes turned red and he launched himself towards him, exploding next to him, releasing a large amount of red rays that entered Izuku's body. "With Murden. Murden. It works, damn it, it works. Hasten. Now what happens?" "Murden. I managed to create a way to absorb all the energy from the city and kill the inhabitants in the process." "Hasten. And how are we supposed to do that?" "Murden. It's simple. I just need you to place these phones in certain specific points of the city so that the energy can reach everywhere. The prototype will be in the center of the city." "Hasten. And what about us?" "Murden. Only those of us who are able to withstand or receive the energy will survive and grow stronger." "Hasten. And what about the boy?" "Murden. You will grow stronger and you will defeat him." "Hasten. But so will he." "Murden. You take charge of distracting him and the prototype will absorb 80% of the energy if all goes well." "Hasten. Okay, but this time you must take care of the police." "Murden. Yes, but now is the time to work." While these two worked on the devices and established the places where they would go to connect the devices, the prototype saw everything in a strange way. For some reason she could see how light very far from her illuminated and she felt a great curiosity. She did not know what it was, she did not even know if she was real or at least had flesh. She had never seen herself in the mirror, but when she saw that light she felt that many of her doubts would be answered, not like in the place she was now. She was chained to the floor in a dark and cold room, although she did not know how to say those emotions. She was like a little girl who never saw the world, the only thing she had was a small window which gave a view of the sea. She always approached that window and looked at the extensive sea looking for an answer to her freedom. It was the thing she longed for most in that world. Besides knowing what that red light capable of passing through walls was, she always stood in a corner, observing nothing since it was the only thing she had. From time to time the door was opened and you could see that someone was leaving a plate, although whenever he approached his instinct made him throw it all away or undo it with his power, turning it into ashes. He didn't know why, it was only an instinct, as if he were an animal. 1 month later. She was sitting on the floor watching the ceiling of the room when the door opened and the chain broke. She got up abruptly, but could feel a look of hatred towards her, so scared she approached with her head down and felt how they placed something on her neck. The man left the room leaving the door open and she tried to take off the necklace, but the man returned furious and began to yell things at her that she didn't understand. She never wanted to be there and she didn't know why he was alone. She knew that something bad would happen if the man looked at her in a bad way, so they tried not to do many things. Burden. Tayson. Tayson. Don't yell at me, old man, I know what to do. Burden. This is the last chance, there can't be mistakes. Tayson. Just shut up and do your part, I just need to distract the boy. Burden. You come here, looks at her. She walked slowly towards him with her head down and he grabbed her hand and then threw her into the car. He closed the door and gave her a pill that made her fall asleep instantly. When she woke up she was in the city where there were so many different people. Burden. Stop scratching the window. She stopped doing that because of the screaming, but she still appreciated the people. They were so different from each other, both in appearance and attitude. At one point the man got out of some kind of building and several shots were heard, so she covered her ears, but after a few minutes the man returned and made her get out of the car. Burden. Well, time is ticking, you will go up to that building and absorb as much energy as possible, and then you will make all these damn people die. It will only be the first step, understood? She remained silent and the man hit her and then pointed to the ceiling, so she quickly went and hid in a small room. Although later screams and such could be heard, the sky turned red and the police seemed to be fighting with some kind of red demons. But Izuku, 1 hour before. Izuku was at home with Eri asleep in his arms watching TV. Everything was quiet when out of nowhere a loud scream made him leave Eri's side and get up covering his ears. After a few seconds the scream disappeared and he turned around seeing the door that was open. Without any concern he went to close it but received a powerful blow to the face that made him break a window and fall from the top of the building onto the concrete, remaining unconscious. When he woke up he could see how many people were attacking each other, but a part of his chest had a red light. Izuku? What's going on, Eri? Izuku quickly went up the stairs and saw that there was no one in his apartment and Toga, so he called twice, but there was no answer. Izuku? Damn it. Izuku went down and noticed that the building was completely empty, so he left it and all the people looked at him with a horrible look and rushed towards him. At this Izuku used his fire powers to keep them away from him, but one or another managed to sneak in and ended up hitting him. After a few minutes he felt like he was running out of energy, so he fired a burst of air at the ground. Propelled into the sky and in the process driving everyone away, and then fired another one falling into a building. Izuku. Let's try it one more time, but this time A1 call, it's David. Answers, David. David? Where are you? Izuku. In the building outside the apartments, what's going on? David. We don't know, but I need you to come to the ice cream shop in front of the station, we're using it as a shelter. Izuku. Do you know what happened to people? David. No, but it's very serious, it's happening to me, it's barely even my arm. Izuku. I won't be long. Izuku ran and when he was about to jump off the building, someone grabbed him by the shirt and threw him to the ground, abruptly crashing a part of it. Izuku was getting up when the person who threw him fell on top of him and grabbed him by the hair from behind and then threw him into the middle of the street. Izuku. You again. Now what did you do? Tayson. Everyone here is going to die except us, although I need to get rid of you. Izuku. If you couldn't when I controlled myself less now when my daughter is in danger. Izuku appeared in front of him and gave him a powerful blow, using his maximum ability of One for All, but that only managed to make Tayson take a step back. Tayson. Let me show you my strength. Tayson gave him a strong blow to the face, making him fall to the ground and cutting his cheek. Izuku. How did he get so strong? Tayson. The process is beginning. The sky turned red and Tayson saw for a few moments how some rays headed towards the prototype. Tayson. Everything goes according to plan, we will finally be able to dominate. The shot was heard and Tayson got on his knee, turning behind him and could see a man in a somewhat strange suit. Izuku. Twice-year-old suit. Twice. Now it has a different meaning, serious look. Tayson. And who are you? Twice. Did you cause this? And you're taking the lives of thousands. Tayson. I'm not interested at all. Twice. Looks at a photo of him and his fiancée that is on a necklace. I do. Izuku. Twice, don't tell me that. Twice. It's not time for regrets, with several tears under his mask. Tayson got up, but Izuku saw that the bullet wound was closing, so he took advantage and put his arm there, but Tayson hit him hard with his elbow without turning around, followed by a kick to get him away. At that same moment Tayson was surrounded by several Twice clones, all with a serious look. Tayson. Stupid clones aren't going to stop me. Several red rays came out of his body and destroyed all the clones, but Tayson felt a weight on his back. Twice took out a knife and buried it in his sword, then got off him and rolled between his legs right in front of his face and buried a pencil in his eye. Blood began to flow, and Twice took out a gun to start shooting, but the bullet wounds were beginning to heal, so he threw the gun at him and ran towards him, but received a strong blow that made him crash into a small concrete wall. Hasten. Stupid. Takes off the pencil. Izuku had his fist surrounded by flames and was using all his one-for-all ability to give Tayson a strong blow to the face that made him fly through the skies, but Izuku's right arm suffered serious injuries. This reminded him of his old days as a student. Izuku. Twice's, are you okay? Twice. Yes, but bring the car is around the corner, there is a city to save. No more failures. Twice and Izuku were riding in a car together on the way to the city center, since a big star could be seen in the sky, or so it seemed. Izuku. Twice, what the hell is going on now? Twice. I don't know, but it seems like all the people are transforming into some kind of demons, and I'm no exception. Twice took off a part of his suit and you could see how his body was slowly consumed by a powerful red ray that went from his chest to his neck for now. Twice. It seems like it's heading for my brain, although I don't know how long it will take. I saw people who took a long time to transform and others went immediately, but one thing is certain. Izuku. Every time we defeat one of those things, something comes out of them and goes towards that light. Twice. And where are your friends? Izuku. I don't know, but I think they took Eri too. Twice. Look, you shouldn't be alarmed, just focus on the fact that we must stop this at all costs. Izuku. Of course. While they were both talking, a kind of cannonball covered in electricity was shot towards the car, completely turning it over, hurting both of them. The first to get up was Izuku, who immediately looked for Twice, but he could see in the distance how people were attacking him and taking off his suit. Izuku quickly activated the one for all but felt a kind of short in his brain, so he simply knelt down and stopped using it. He felt a great attraction to that light, but seeing his friend being so hurt, he got up and using his fire quirk, burned all the people, although they became a lightning bolt and went directly to the center. Izuku. Are you okay? Twice. Just give me a minute. Izuku. We don't even have half that time to rest, something serious is happening. Twice. I know, okay. Twice quickly got up with Izuku's help and they had to walk the whole way while defeating the people and they transformed into lightning. After a few minutes they reached the center of the place and you could see the police shooting at those beings as well as some people trying to hide and save their lives. Twice. Look up, it seems that thing creates many more. A shuddering scream was heard throughout the city and the ground began to crack, the remaining people ran away and in the distance you could see Toga on a roof along with Melissa and Eri fighting against all the beings. Izuku. You have to help them quickly. Twice. Go you, I'll help the police. Izuku ran quickly, destroying all the obstacles and going through some parts of some buildings until a car passed very close to him and exploded next to him, making him fall. Hasten. You told you he was stronger. Izuku. What the hell happened to you? Hasten was no longer like before. Right now he was a beast about 2 meters tall with 2 huge horns on his forehead, while his chest shone in incandescent red, his hands had claws stained with blood, and his back was buried in all kinds of things and wounds. Hasten. This is evolution, now we are able to survive all kinds of things. Izuku. Are we? Hasten. That's right. Hasten's chest opened in half and you could see Murden's head inside and his mind was what gave that unparalleled glow. Murden. With my intellect, closes his chest. Hasten. And my strength. Both. We are incomparable. Izuku ran towards both of them and being close to them, they tried to crush him with their huge fist, but Izuku slid between their legs and got up behind them, using his fire quirk to try to burn them. Both. That flame won't hurt us. Both of them will grab Izuku by the chest and using their claws, they tore Izuku's entire back and then threw him against a car. Later they jumped very high and fell on top of the car, but moments before Izuku rolled falling on the ground, both tried to hold him again, but Izuku escaped as he could and attacked at the same time, until at one point they both managed to connect a blow to the face that left Izuku somewhat injured. Izuku. I'm not going to be able to do it alone, looks at a broken gas dicto, or maybe yes. Izuku ran towards the duct and as expected they both followed him and when he was behind him, Izuku shot a large flame that caused a huge explosion. Some police officers turned around and others simply continued with their work. The city was a mess, but Izuku managed to get up a few moments later, although something threw him again and began to beat him brutally without being able to defend himself. Both. We are capable of surviving any kind of thing, apparently you did not understand, opens his chest, Murden. That we are superior. Izuku. Maybe they are together but not separate. Izuku grabbed Murden's head and forcibly tried to tear it from Tayson's body. At this Tayson quickly closed his chest and Izuku began to use his fire quirk to burn them from the inside, although he couldn't. Both. You won't win even if he defeats us, the prototype will destroy everything, his screams create earthquakes. Izuku? Is she a woman? Why do they call her prototype? Both. She just must not know who or what she is. Izuku. Time to excel. Izuku's hand stopped burning, but instead their temperature began to rise abruptly, slowly melting Tayson, while Murden screamed in pain. Izuku waited a moment and tore off the aforementioned head and melted it in the palm of his hand, while Tayson slowly healed his wounds. Izuku. Only you remain. Tayson. And that's more than enough. Tayson ran towards Izuku and carried him from the abdomen and then went through the ground and fell into a huge manhole in the city. Izuku. Here is our last encounter. Tayson. You are not going to win. They both ran in a straight line and began to hit each other brutally without any mercy, although Izuku showed to have a better technique and strength which was subduing Tayson. It could be seen that he returned more and more to normal until he was in his human form and had a hole in his chest from which a lot of blood came out as well as spitting a lot of blood. Izuku. It's finally over. Tayson. You still have a bigger problem up there. A scream was heard and another earthquake was caused while other screams of people could be heard, the stones fell, and many of these managed to crush Tayson ending his suffering, but starting Izuku's, since many of these fell all over his body, despite having won it had cost him a lot of victory and he could hardly move. Izuku. I need help, I can't move. Izuku stretched out his hand and expelled fire through the hole he had waiting for someone to see him until several police officers approached as they almost fell in. Police. There's someone inside, we need support fast. The police threw a huge rope and Izuku held onto it while they stretched it to get him out. When he came out, Izuku stayed on the ground for a few moments dizzy from all the wounds and the police helped him get up, but a huge ray of light from the light hit him making him fall again, but his pulse began to drop. Right now I was in a dark place and I could see the same woman from that night who was in the fetal position. She seemed to be crying and in front of her you could see from the perspective of the light everything that was happening. Izuku. What is this? Person. We are all trapped here, but it seems that she does not want to do this. Izuku. God, where are you all? Person. Maybe if you help her we can be free. Izuku approached, but the woman screamed and caused an earthquake. Izuku. So this causes the earthquakes. Izuku slowly approached the woman and subtly touched her shoulder expecting the worst, but she turned around and abruptly stood up holding her hand. Izuku stayed still so as not to cause a bad reaction and waited to see what would happen, but she pressed her forehead against his. Prototype. Why, you're the man from that time, the one who protected the girl. Izuku. How can you talk in my mind? Prototype. You have to help me please, I don't want to do any of this, I just want to stop, but I do it involuntarily since they controlled me and I can't stop. Izuku. Okay, just give me a minute to think and free you without hurting you anyway. Prototype. It doesn't matter if you hurt me, I don't want to hurt anyone else please, with tears in his eyes. Izuku. I'll help you, I don't plan on leaving anyone behind, but for that I need to get out. The woman looked at Izuku as an incredible being, capable of doing anything, so before letting him go she hugged him. She had never done that before and didn't know what it meant, but she felt the need to do it. Izuku. Why did you do it? Prototype. In case something happens to you because of me. Izuku woke up and was in a car with two police officers who were doing CPR and defibrillating with a small kit they had and giving it energy with the car battery. Police. We thought you had already left. Izuku. I need you to stop shooting and get out with all the people within a radius of 3 blocks. Police. Fine, we'll take care of it. Izuku opened the door and could see how all the police stopped shooting and retreated with some people. Izuku. Hey, come get me. I just need a chance. The glow stopped and the woman flew quickly towards Izuku, attacking him fiercely, but he only dodged or blocked them, but in a moment the woman held his chest and you could see something similar, as if she was absorbing his energy. Izuku was increasingly running out of strength and could hear Irie's screams. Izuku. Don't go. Irie. Leave my dad alone. Irie ran towards Izuku and the woman released him, flying slowly towards the girl, but Toga appeared and carried her to dodge a lightning bolt that destroyed a piece of the cement. On the other hand, Izuku slowly got up and put a hand on his shoulder, but she did the same attack as Irie, only this time she managed to hit Izuku, who was thrown against a building, destroying the glass. Izuku. If she's stronger than me but I'm not going to hit her, she's like a scared little girl and needs help. Izuku held one of the crystals in his hand and when she approached he put it in front of her face, blinding her for a moment due to its brightness. Izuku took advantage and held her face and then pressed his forehead against hers. Izuku. 1-4. The woman covered his mouth with one hand and with the other began to hit him in the stomach until he let go of her, falling to his knees. Izuku. I need the strength of others, one last effort, not like the time I died, for this I was training. Izuku got up and dodged a blow from the woman and put a hand on his abdomen. Izuku. One for all 100%. A small green aura subtly ran through the woman's body releasing all her power, and all the people began to appear again, the sky returned to its original color, and the woman was in her normal appearance with red skin and horns, dressed in a simple black sweatshirt and short shorts. Prototype. Thank you. Izuku fell to the ground unconscious and was on a train that ran through his entire mind. Izuku. What is this? He could see hooded people in front of him, and Almight. Izuku. They are the carriers. Everyone. You surpassed your limits to save human lives, and you have managed to use 100% of your capacity. Izuku. Maybe, but I can only land one hit or use it for a second. After that I faint for like 3 hours. Everyone. An achievement is an achievement, this is just one more goal to overcome, and remember 100% is not the limit of your capacity. Almight. And always remember to save everyone with a smile plus ultra. Izuku. Plus ultra, smiling. Everyone. But now it's time for you to come back. Good luck, young man. Izuku woke up in a hospital room bandaged and could see that it was night and several people were around him. Toga was asleep with Eri in his arms and Melissa next to him holding his hand, and David was also in the chair asleep, but what surprised him the most was that on the floor, the woman was sleeping as if she were a ball, so without waking anyone he carried her and put her in bed so she could sleep peacefully. Izuku. I think it would be better to go to the doctors. A wound opened. Izuku left the room and could notice that some doctors were on guard and so on until one of them approached. Doctor? You are the young man who fought against that woman and saved us. Izuku. Well, yes. Doctor. Thank you very much. My wife and son were there and they managed to get out unharmed thanks to you. Izuku. You're welcome, it's my job. Doctor. Come with me, I'll proceed to check you out. Tries to open the door. Izuku. Better go to another room, this one is already full. Doctor. Okay, please follow me. Izuku. Finally, this is over now, all that's left is to rest. Back to Japan. It had been a week since the fight and the rescue of the woman, but now they called her Luz for her unparalleled brilliance. Right now Izuku was at home resting from everything, and he could hear how Eri played and tried to make Luz talk, since apparently a trauma prevents her from speaking in a way that is not telepathic, so for now she only talks to Izuku, who is the one she trusts the most. She follows him from one place to another and stares at him on one occasion or another. Izuku was calm when he received a call from David to go to the station they were currently fixing, and when he arrived, he could see that Toga and Twice were next to him. Izuku. What's wrong? David. Please sit down. Izuku. Okay, sits in a chair in front of the three. Twice. Look, we know you're recovering and all that, but we need to know if you're going to return to Japan. Izuku was silent for a few moments thinking about everything he could lose and everything he could have, depending on whether he left or stayed. On the one hand his friends were in Japan as well as his mentor, and he couldn't deceive him forever, but on the other hand if he leaves he would lose Melissa and David, who are also a family to him. Izuku. What will you guys do? Twice. I will follow you just like Toga. We must be together and more if we return to Japan, since I don't think we will be well received. David. I know it's a difficult decision, but you must think it through clearly. Izuku. I've been doing it for a long time. Toga. We will be here to support you in whatever decision you make, you will never be alone, smiling. Izuku. Thank you. The three left the room, and Izuku remained thinking looking at the sky through a small window. 2 months later. Izuku was increasingly worried and alarmed about what to do, frustration was present and he couldn't sleep well, and he had small dark circles under his eyes, although these were removed thanks to some pills that helped him sleep better. He had asked Kiri what she wanted, and she said that she would follow her father wherever he is. Right now Izuku was in Toga's apartment thinking everything clearly on the couch. Toga. It's very complicated. Izuku. Of course, the truth is I don't know what to do anymore. Toga. I know it will sound silly, cliché and even somewhat unnecessary, but just think about where you are happy. Izuku. In both places. Toga. So ask yourself another question, do you miss Japan enough to return? Izuku. It's that I already know my answer, I miss Japan, I'm from there, I miss its infrastructure, the language, my friends, the food, its landscapes, I miss many things, but I don't want to leave the people who helped me here. David and Melissa are my family too. Toga. Too many mental conflicts, and haven't you asked Melissa if she wants to come with us? Izuku. I wouldn't want to separate her from her father. Toga. Haven't you realized you're just putting butts instead of goals? Izuku. Maybe. Toga. Just think about it, she could accompany us and come visit her father from time to time, or we would visit them if she decides to stay. Izuku. I thought that too. Toga. And why can't you make up your mind? Izuku. Because I'm an idiot. Toga. You're not an idiot. Izuku. Yes, I am. Toga. No, listen, it's not wrong that you doubt these kinds of things, in fact, it's fine, it means that you appreciate the people around you, but we can't just leave others and forget about each other. Izuku. You're right, damn it, you're right, let's go back to Japan, stands up. Toga. So much trouble for a simple answer. Izuku. Toga. Toga. What's wrong? Izuku. I'll be back in a few moments. Izuku left the apartment and left a confused Toga. A few minutes passed and Izuku returned with several papers and both spent the whole afternoon searching the internet and arranging all of Eri and Twice's paperwork for which they spoke on a video call, in addition to asking Melissa and her answering yes, as well as asking her father's permission and having him give her her paperwork so she could leave the country and live in a residence. Days of not sleeping well passed in order to accommodate everything, even Luz's, since she couldn't be left alone. They decided that she would come with them and Izuku told her telepathically, making her happy, so they also had to do paperwork, certificates, blood tests, and other things. 1 month later. Eri could be seen half asleep on the couch in Toga's house, while Izuku and the aforementioned were about to finish all the paperwork to be able to return to Japan without any problem. Izuku. Just one more click finally, he lightly knocks on the table. Toga. I can sleep well after so long. Izuku. Together. Toga. It would be an injustice if it weren't like that. They both put a finger on the mouse and clicked, finishing all the paperwork and buying the corresponding plane tickets and then celebrating with some food and drinks. Izuku. Finally, it's been so long since I felt so free, he leans back in the chair. Toga. The food was incredible. Izuku. Well, we have 2 weeks to prepare the suitcases and everything, but I want to rest a little from so much stress. Both were silent when Izuku turned to look at Toga and began to think about everything that had helped her since they arrived and everything they lived together in 2 years, from training to therapies to control their past. The parties, the problems, the small but funny arguments and so on. It had been a long time since he felt connected to a person, and Toga turned to look at him too. The moonlight reflected her beautiful eyes and loose hair. They both approached and gave each other a short but passionate kiss, showing all the feelings they had for each other. When they separated they stared at each other momentarily until they brought their lips together again, but were surprised by a voice. Eri. I finally have a mom. They both separated embarrassed and Toga covered her face and then ran to her room and lay down on the bed. Toga. He kissed me, it was incredible. Outside the room. Izuku. I kissed her, it felt so good. Eri. I finally have a mom, hugs Izuku. Izuku. Well, about that it's difficult, we would have to do a lot of paperwork and such, and the truth is I'm tired of them for the moment, but it's progress. Eri. Something is more than nothing. The next day. Izuku woke up and could see that he had a note on his bed which was from Melissa, who had gone out with Eri to do some shopping. On the other hand, Izuku went to Toga's apartment and upon entering she greeted him with a big hug and another kiss that surprised him more than expected. Izuku. I really don't know what to say. Toga. I know it's strange, but I longed for this. I thought that because I was a villain in the past you would never notice me again, but here we are. Izuku. I vaguely remember the time we were together but not much. Toga. What do you remember? Toga approached him and Izuku began to think about how little he remembered of his stay with the villains in Japan, how he went through all kinds of torture and punishment in addition to the painful operations he suffered to improve him. Izuku froze and remembered every injection and hid until Toga brought him out of his thoughts by moving him. Toga. Did you remember all the bad? Izuku just looked down and could see all the bandages that once fell from his body. He thought he had completely overcome that trauma, but the truth was he had just put it aside since the damage was still there. He never told anyone and he never let it all out, and now after so much time it was taking its toll. He was just a simple boy. He was not a superior being who felt nothing and had no feelings. It was not as if after being rescued, everything had returned to normal as always. Izuku closed his eyes for a moment and saw the grim scene where Stain was brutally beaten by All for One. Stain. You're going to be strong, kid, don't ever stop, you'll be the hero this world needs. Izuku. Wait, what are you doing? Run. Stain. Sorry is necessary. The sword cut Stain's head and he rolled until he was in front of Izuku, who was on his knees lightly holding his head. Around him he could hear the screams of fear and people telling him to get out, but his body didn't respond. The scene changed places and now he was on the ground weak, while All for One had both of his parents in his hands. Afo. I told you not to mess with me, kid, you didn't want to listen. Izuku. Wait, don't do it, tries to get up but fails. Inko. Son, don't worry about us, we'll be fine, with tears in his eyes. Izuku. You were always a great person and I'm grateful to have been your father, don't forget us please and keep going. Both. We love you. Izuku. Stop. Izuku managed to get up and used all the power he could have won for all to run in the direction of his opponent, but when he hit him he vanished in a curtain of smoke like his parents. Izuku was now alone in a dark place with white smoke when he heard how crystals broke and began to fall from the sky, cutting him slightly in many areas of his body. Izuku ran until a huge crystal fell in front of him, and you could see everything that happened in his stay with the League of Villains. Izuku turned around and tried to run, but another crystal fell equally, only this time it was the fight with All for One and the death of Stain. Izuku ran in all possible directions to try to escape, but was locked in all the difficult moments of his life. He was in a fetal position and could hear very close to his ear screams of despair and all the words of support he received when bad things were happening. Izuku's body began to look like another crystal, and it was breaking little by little when out of nowhere the crack stopped and the crystals were removed, showing all his friends. Bakugo. You always helped us. Mina. No matter what the cost. Todoroki. You were willing to give it your all. Sai. You weren't afraid of anything. Mineta. Especially when it came to helping others. Uraraka. You saved a lot of people. Tokoyami. And you may have had your rough times, but everyone. You never told us, you always kept your problems to yourself instead of talking to your friends. You hurt yourself and it's time to heal those wounds. You're with people who love you. Our time to help will come soon, but now. Toga's silhouette flew towards Izuku with open arms as he slowly stood up. Toga. Let me help you and be part of that support you need so much now. Izuku came out of his thoughts and could see a worried Toga who had her hands on both of Izuku's shoulders. The latter had red eyes and seemed to want to cry. Toga. Are you okay? Izuku was going to answer yes, but he remembered everything his friends told him and decided that he also needed help and he couldn't hide his pain anymore if he didn't want to lose himself. Izuku. No, I'm not okay, I'm bad, I'm broken, tired, damaged and deeply hurt. I can't handle this alone anymore. Tears ran down his cheeks and Toga didn't know how to react. It was the first time she saw Izuku crying, but she left her doubts behind when he hugged her, hiding his face in his shoulder. So she reciprocated the hug and lay down on the couch with him for a few moments while he let out all that pain that had been consuming him for years, while Toga patiently rubbed his hair and looked at him in a relaxed manner. Toga. Everything will be okay, I'll be here as long as necessary. Home again. The plane arrived in Japan and many people got off, but one of these was photographed as much as possible, since he was a recognized hero of the United States. Izuku knew that people would be interested in a recognized hero from abroad, despite the fact that he continued to say that his identity was anonymous. No matter how much they told him and showed him photos of him, he continued to deny it, and more now that he was in Japan, since he did not want to bring up the loose ends he had made, since he did not want to ruin his return or look like a ghost from the past. Izuku arrived at the hotel with Melissa, Toga and Eri, who stayed there resting after the flight, but Izuku went straight to UA and greeted Almight. The teachers were somewhat confused, but thought they would have their business. Almight. It's good to see you, you've really grown. Izuku. The calls and visits were not enough. Hey, I know that around these dates there will be the sports festival and I want to appear. Almight. Well, that's complicated, it's only for the students, not that you weren't, but nobody apart from us knows who you really are. Your identity is now at the top of the entertainment industry. Izuku. I know there are many theories and such and more with my photos in the United States, but I will continue to deny everything until that day. Could you do me that favor? Almight. I'll try, but you'll have to appear at the end. Izuku. Whoever wins the tournament will fight against me, obviously only third-year students. Almight. Start preparing yourself mentally, the festival will be in 3 days, I'll let you know tomorrow if I can do what you ask. Izuku. Thanks, I think I'll train a little, smiling. Almight. Hey, there's one more thing. Well, I know it sounds strange and somewhat bizarre, but you better go to your grave. Izuku. Why? Almight. Find out for yourself, see you. Izuku left UA and could see many students leaving, from some new students to his friends who were smiling in the distance. They looked better than the first days, and that pleased him to know that they overcame their death. Izuku was on his way to the cemetery when an explosion made him fall to the ground, and a chase of several villains and several heroes could be seen, but a woman with light blue hair stood out who flew through the skies with what seemed to be aerosonic waves. Izuku. It's good to be back, I think I'll give her a little greeting. Izuku used one for all to run quickly, and the heroes noticed how a green ray quickly reached the car and stood in front of it, holding it. Izuku. He hasn't fully mastered it yet, but one day. The villains came out and tried to hit Izuku, but he created a small whirlwind of fire around them, and a few seconds later he dissolved it, showing the villains lying on the ground on their knees covering themselves. When he got up, Izuku hit them all once, leaving them unconscious. Najira got down and greeted Izuku, who was on his back, and when he turned around she approached. Najira. Thanks for the help. Izuku. You're welcome, all for a friend. Najire. Friend, aren't you Mirio or Tamaki Izuku? Izuku. Don't say it so loud, please. The hero jumped and gave him a tight hug, surprising the green hair a little, who blushed a little. After separating and doing his job, Izuku went with her to a nearby park and they sat down, and Izuku told several of his anecdotes to the blue-haired girl, and to him. Later Najire took him to the agency where both Mirio and Tamaki worked. When they arrived, they both recognized him instantly and sat down to talk with him. They were good friends, and they were trustworthy, so he felt calm to be around them, although the one who had changed the most was obviously him. Now he had the height or was a little taller than the blonde, in addition to having more muscle mass, maybe not like the latter mentioned, but a lot. The four were talking when Izuku received a call from Toga. Izuku. Hey Tiga, is something wrong? Toga. Well, I think we're in trouble. Izuku. What's wrong? Toga. We want to go out, but well, you know that I'm not very welcome here, let's say. Izuku. True, I'll go in a moment. It didn't take long. Izuku hung up the phone and noticed the three of them looking at him. Izuku. Sorry, something important came up and I have to go. Mirio. No problem, just come see us another day. Izuku. I'll see you later. Izuku left the establishment and called a taxi to get to the hotel, where Toga could be seen arguing with several police officers as well as Melissa, while Leary was behind the door of the room assigned to them. Izuku. Officers, I know she is considered a villain at large here, but she has already paid her debt to society. We have the heroin permits and all the paperwork. Police. We need to see you. 30 minutes passed in which the police reviewed the papers and the current status until they decided to end their investigation. Police. Sorry to bother you, but it's our job. Izuku. It's okay. Taking advantage of the time, Izuku went out with the three to see some stores and such. It was useful since it had been a long time since he was in Japan and probably opened many things that he wouldn't recognize at first glance. Sports Festival, UA. The festival was about to conclude with what would be the second victory in a UA event for a blonde who was angry, his rival a young man with purple hair who had several ropes around his neck. The fight had been difficult, but after an intense battle and through surrender, the blonde took the victory, although again, it had a bittersweet taste. At the end of the fight, the medal was given to the first three places. The first was Katsuki Bakugo. Second Hitachi Shinso, and the third for the third consecutive year Fumikage Tokoyami. After this fight, everyone remained in their seats since Almight entered the scene. Almight. Spectators who came to see this event made by UA to demonstrate to society the gifted abilities of its students. We thank you for your presence, but before finishing we have one last surprise. Katsuki Bakugo, winner of the individual tournament, is asked to come and stand next to me. At this, the blonde approached and stood next to Almight. Now he was taller and more robust obviously, but he didn't look as angry as before. In fact, since the tragic event his temperamental attitude dropped considerably, but it didn't disappear since it was his essence. Almight. As we all know, present here 2 years ago a tragedy occurred in the city, the sacrifice of a young promising hero for our good. Given this fact, and considering that some time has passed, and we consider it good to do a small event to remember him, the commemorative event in memory of Midoriya Izuku. The people of the place applauded with a smile on their faces, while Bakugo had a serious face. He, along with his other companions, had overcome the death of their companion, but there was still that small wound that occasionally opened. Almight. At this, a small fight will take place between a recognized hero from the United States, a special guest. Izuku entered the scene and was applauded by the people. Bakugo stared at him. Almight. This will only be a commemorative fight, and there will be no penalty or reward for the winner or loser, so just give it your all. Almight left the arena, and the young people were left alone. Without looking at each other, Bakugo pointed one hand at Izuku, and an explosion of colossal size hit Izuku, but he stood still. The smoke dispersed, and Izuku slowly walked to Bakugo, who looked at him with a bored face. Bakugo. I don't know who you are, but this seems silly to me. Izuku. Why? I know he's not going to fight seriously, and even less for this. I have to make him angry, sorry, but it's for a good deed. Why couldn't you do anything, or why were you afraid? Izuku's voice was thicker, so Bakugo obviously didn't recognize it and got angry at the green-haired boy's comment. He ran towards him and tried to hit him, but Izuku attacked first and made him back a few steps with a single blow to the face. Bakugo attacked again several times, but Izuku dodged all of his blows that ended with an explosion. After several attacks, Izuku caught Bakugo's arm and threw it to the ground, destroying a part of it, leaving a large mark. Then he picked him up and kicked him in the abdomen, followed by a blow to the face. With 50% of one for all, Bakugo rolled on the ground and his nose was bleeding a little. Izuku. Do you feel like you are in the shoes of that young man you abandoned? You made his life impossible, and not even when he needed you most you helped him. He considered you a friend. Bakugo. You don't know anything, you better shut your bucking mouth. Bakugo lunged at Izuku, but instead of attacking him he put his hands on his abdomen and created a huge explosion that raised Izuku a little. He tried to defend himself, but small bullet-shaped explosions impacted all over his body, and just before falling his opponent used both hands and pushed himself with an explosion to reach him and stop him in the rib, throwing him somewhat far. Izuku got up and saw how Bakugo's hands were shaking. Izuku. It was clear that he was a good person, maybe he would have enjoyed his life more if he hadn't met you. You were his biggest nightmare for a long time, the one who hit him and made fun of him. The blame came to you a long time later, don't you think? Bakugo. What would you know? Izuku. You were always after him looking for how to mistreat him either physically or mentally. He couldn't even enjoy his short life because of your miserable presence. Bakugo attacked him again, but this time an explosion the size of the combat area destroyed the entire arena. Izuku got up, but Bakugo grabbed him by the back and threw him to the ground to start hitting him in the face. His mask was breaking little by little. Bakugo. I want to see your stupid face and keep telling me that. Come on, show me your face, imbecile. You never knew everything I suffered thinking about what I did, you know nothing. At one point Izuku's mask was about to break in the upper right part, so he kicked him and then punched him in the face, with 75% of one for all throwing it very far. It was to the other extreme, and everyone was very involved in the fight. Bakugo got up, but Izuku continued hitting him brutally, only this time at 50%. Bakugo was very hurt, and Izuku stopped seeing his face with a small bruise and nose in his blood and mouth. Izuku. Everything I said was a lie. He spent the best moments of his life with you. He became stronger with your help. He understood that he had to try harder than the others, and that way maybe he would become just like them, just like you. Bakugo was left with his eyes wide open in surprise, and Izuku helped him up. Izuku. I wanted to see your true potential and it wasn't a waste, besides thanking you. People saw this scene surprised, as well as the students, teachers and other people, since they also watched the event live. Bakugo. Why thank you. Izuku's mask broke at the part of his eye, showing a green lock of hair and his almost emerald green eye. Bakugo saw it and was ecstatic. He seemed to be seeing a ghost. He moved a hand directly to Izuku's face, but he stopped him and put it on his shoulder. Izuku. You were always a brother to me and I'm sorry for making you angry. Izuku took off his mask and smiled validly. Everyone began to scream in amazement, and some cried with joy. It was impossible not to recognize that smile, those green eyes and those curls of the same color. Bakugo saw the face of a little boy smiling, and several tears came out of his eyes. For a moment he looked down and tried to act strong, suppressing his feelings, but he couldn't. Bakugo. Are you the nerd? Please tell me it's true. Bakugo looked up and Izuku kept smiling, so he hugged him with all his strength. The truth is even a person like him would cry at a moment like this. On the one hand Aizawa left the announcer's booth, and his friend present Mick announced that it was the green-haired one. His friends quickly ran towards the arena, and Almight watched everything with a smile from the teacher's lounge, where everyone was surprised beyond belief. Bakugo. You're an idiot, you left without even letting them help you. Izuku. I couldn't let anything bad happen to them. All his classmates shouted his name with tears on their faces, and he turned to see them and raised his hand in greeting, but was taken to the ground as they all knocked him down at the same time and hugged him. It was incredible for everyone to return, and from the hotel you could see an excited Eri with Melissa and Toga. Izuku. Sorry for. Uraraka. No forgiveness, thanks for coming back, with tears. Jiro. Buck. The green-haired boy was getting up when the aforementioned approached him and kissed him on the lips with small tears of joy in her eyes. The green-haired boy opened his eyes wide, as did everyone present. At the hotel. Eri. Yes, I will have 2 moms. Toga. I don't think that's possible, who am I kidding, it was something that was going to happen. Back in UA. The green-haired boy separated, blushing, and could see Jiro's smile as he hugged him gently. Jiro. Don't leave our side again. Izuku didn't know what to do, since on the one hand he had already kissed Toga and Jiro, but he had also had relations with Hatsume. His mind was now in chaos and ecstasy when he noticed how all the women in his class snatched his hands one by one to kiss him. One would think badly of the green-haired boy if it were in another situation, but with this, the people only applauded and whistled at each statement of their classmates. Izuku didn't articulate a word and could only think of one thing. Izuku. What will I do now? War reunions. After the festival you could see an excited Eri jumping on her bed thinking about how many brothers she could have and how much fun it would be to play with each one of them. On the other hand, Izuku was dying inside thinking about what the authorities would think and how much his sentence would be for adultery, although a hug from Toga comforted him. Toga. I expected this, so I'll just say that I will support you in whatever decision you make, whether it's with my classmates or not. Izuku. See classmates. Toga. Of course you're going to have to do something about it, the good thing is that you're at least still a virgin. Izuku gulped heavily and Toga stared at him coldly as she approached his ear. Toga. Right, Izuku-kun. Izuku just started to sweat a little at Toga's voice that sounded like that of an ancient fair. After a small argument in which Izuku tried to excuse himself to an angry Toga. After several minutes of fighting, Izuku received a call from an unknown number and answered somewhat surprised. Izuku. Good. Max. Young man, it's incredible to know you're alive. Izuku. Who's speaking? Max. I'm Miss Hatsu's butler. Izuku. It's a pleasure to hear you again, it's been a long time. Max. Yes, and I need your help, please come to the house, we should talk. Izuku. I'm going immediately. He sounded very worried. Toga, I have to leave urgently, sorry for not telling you about you know. Toga just remained silent and turned her back on him. Izuku. This at night we could go out to dinner or something. Diga. Izuku. Seriously, it wasn't my intention, someday I was going to tell you, but I have to go see you at night. Izuku laughed and Toga just sighed and then put on a smile. Toga. I'll have to get ready for later at night, I wanted to get mad at him at least once for something, smiling. Izuku arrived at Hatsu's house and Max opened the door for him, but he had a tired face and looked very worried. Max. Please come in. Izuku. Did something happen? Max couldn't hold it in anymore and started crying on Izuku's shoulder while behind him he was surprised. He didn't expect this from Hatsu's butler, but he could see that there was a light in a room. Izuku took Max to the couch and he unburdened himself to Izuku, and after so much sleep he couldn't help but fall asleep. Izuku lay him down and went to the room from which a light was coming out and he could see Hatsu on a stretcher with a monitor showing her heartbeat. She was lying down and next to her was her son. Hiro was by her side holding her hand. He looked a little taller, but it was obvious because 3 years had passed. I quickly woke Hiro up and he hugged me with tears and explained to me that after he and his mother found out about her death, they had fallen into a deep depression. Later she began to feel very bad and one of her internal organs was failing, it was a kidney. I asked alarmed why she wasn't in a hospital and they said she had been there too long and had received a lot of medicine and had to rest mentally and physically. Izuku. Let's go to the hospital now, I don't plan on failing her again. I left the house and called an ambulance. It arrived about 5 minutes later and they got Hatsu in along with Hiro and Max, who were the companions, and I left in a taxi. When we arrived at the hospital they put her in a room and without thinking I asked everything related to her problem and I discovered that she needed a new kidney and the operation was expensive, but the money wasn't the problem, but finding someone who could donate. I thought about myself for a moment but didn't get my hopes up too much. I had to go through a lot of security measures and it was unlikely that that would happen, but I decided to ask for all the tests to be done. It would take between a month or 2 at the most, and I'm exaggerating, I hope, and everything goes well. 1 month later. The news was full of news related to Izuku. He couldn't leave the street with much privacy, let's say, not only because he returned from the dead, but also because his love life was becoming too public. He had more than one problem going out on the streets and endlessly receiving the same question. What was he going to do about the statements of his friends' companions? On the one hand, he thought he would get into legal trouble, but it was quite the opposite, since in a short message made by some high-ranking authorities both in the country's Congress and the Navy, they gladly accepted a meeting to talk about it. Izuku's intention was to ask for forgiveness and not to be put in prison and say that he was going to choose one, although deep down he couldn't, but he was surprised when a high-ranking military officer asked him when the wedding would be. Flashback a week ago. Izuku arrived at a military base with his hair standing on end while repeating a prayer he had prepared in case he was sentenced upon entering. Izuku. Remember to apologize and if necessary, kneel. Izuku knocked on the door and an official opened it with a smile. Izuku walked in and saw a total of 10 people talking to him. He was about to speak when someone interrupted him. Soldier. And when is the wedding, kid? Izuku. What? Official. Don't pay attention to him. You see, you already know why you're here and we want to talk in the most delicate and sensible way possible. Besides, we made a decision before you arrived. Soldier. And you should be very happy. You're going to be one of the few men, not counting the Israelites, or was it the Muslims? Official. I don't think it was either of those two. Soldier. Anyway, you're going to be one of the few men officially authorized to have more than one wife. Official. Although, of course, if you get married to a large number, they will have to provide financial support. In this folder, we have some information that we think will help you. Izuku. Aren't they going to imprison me? Military. Of course it wouldn't be the last thing I would do. You are a hero who gave his life and returned from death. I want to be remembered as one of the men who supported him in a great decision. Izuku. But what if I don't want to marry more than one? Official. We are not forcing you, but seeing what happened at the UA festival, we believe that you will not say no, or will you? Izuku. That only concerns me. Military. Well, read the information and we want to know what you think, take your time. 5 minutes later. Izuku. Are you sure about this? I feel like it is a great burden and that I don't deserve it. Official. You will be someone relatively normal, not taking into account the fact that you have more than one wife if you want that, but if you hurt just one you can also go to jail. Izuku. I would never do that. Official. Fine, if you agree, just sign. Izuku signed, checking that everything was in order, and everyone left the place with a smile. Present. Izuku could be seen in the hospital checking Hatsu's condition until the doctor arrived. Doctor? Do you remember the tests you took? Izuku. Yes, were they positive? Doctor? That's right, we now have permission to operate on her as long as you agree. Max the butler smiled happily and Izuku gladly accepted, although they would have to wait a bit since Izuku had to be fasting. After about 2 hours Izuku was finally allowed to enter the operating room where he was anesthetized using a mask. His vision was blurry and the last thing he remembered was the doctor checking him out. 1 week later. Izuku had been awake for a while and was recovering, and although Hatsu was out of danger now he had not yet woken up. The operation was successful, it must be said obviously, and all the girls who liked Izuku were there including his friends. Everything was fine when Hiro noticed how Hatsu opened his eyes. Hatsu? Why am I in a hospital? Hiro? Mom, you finally wake up. The boy hugged his mother and she reciprocated without hesitation, but his astonishment was greater when he saw Izuku on the stretcher on his right side smiling at him while his friend stepped aside so they could see each other better. Izuku. Everything went well, I promised I would come back, or so I think. Hatsu drew some tears from her eyes and stretched out her hand, and Izuku took it with a smile. She hugged her son, and Max arrived appreciating the moving scene. He was watching everything calmly when Hatsu indicated that he should come closer, and the three of them hugged each other in a familiar way. Izuku. It's really good to be back, it's amazing. 1 month later. Izuku was already fully recovered and Hatsu practically too, although she was just a little tired. Everything was quiet and Izuku was at Hatsu's house. It was a little late, but he wanted to be there for a while. He felt he should because his absence caused many problems. Hiro was already asleep next to Max, while these two were downstairs. In that month Hatsu found out about everything that happened, or a large majority of the green-haired man's life after the fight with All for One. Right now Izuku was bathing and felt a small burning sensation in his scar, but it was because he was soaping himself. He still couldn't believe the fact that he could, if he wanted, to be one of the few men currently, or maybe the only one, who can legally have more than one wife. Everything was calm when Hatsu entered without him noticing. Hatsu walked and hugged him from behind, surprising him. Izuku turned around slowly and could see Hatsu's blushing face. Izuku. What's wrong, Hatsu? Hatsu. Well, you said you could have more than one wife, and seeing as how lucky you are with women, I'm sorry I was left behind. Izuku. It's not true, it has to be a joke. Hatsu. Seriously, if you're doing this just to help you with your illness, it's not necessary. Hatsu. It's not because of that, the truth was it was shortly after you arrived. You spoke to me in such a calm manner, and you didn't look for anything from me. Many men approached me because I am famous to a certain degree, and I learned the hard way that I shouldn't always open up so easily, but I noticed that you are a great person, plus Hiro appreciates you very much. Izuku. That's incredible, but I wouldn't know what to do if one day I ended up marrying more than one. Hatsu. Then we'll let you accompany and help us. Lemon skipped. Hatsu. What are you doing? Izuku. Just one more time. Izuku's voice was much hoarser than usual, and a small shiver ran down Hatsu's back. Hatsu. Okay, but just one more time. Izuku introduced his member again and joined his hands with his partner's, beginning to thrust into her. So some time passed, and every time they both reached their climax, he ended up saying that it would be the last time. This was about 6 times until Hatsu fell exhausted in Izuku's arms, and he got out of the bathtub. He dried her too and put on her underwear. He got out and looked for some pajamas to put on her and laid her down on the couch. Hatsu. Sleep with me, please. Izuku just smiled and lay down next to her and pressed his face against her back and hugged her and fell asleep happily. Finally, after so long, his life was calm and problem-free again. Not everything is rosy. Izuku was somewhat alarmed thinking about what he had done last night. He had just woken up and was dying inside, while Max looked at him strangely. Izuku. Well, I only came once inside, the others were outside. I don't think I'd get pregnant with just one time. Well, I'll have to talk to her if something happens. Hatsu woke up some time later, and when Max was waking Hiro up they talked about it. Hatsu. I know you're worried, but don't worry, I'll take a morning after pill. I know I said I wanted to have a child with you, but I want it to be later. For now I'd like to enjoy more time together. Izuku. Okay. Max came down and listened to everything after I said I wanted to have a child with him. He looked at both of them with a serious face, and they just looked at each other smiling. He gave them a small hit on the head to each of them. Max. Please tell me if they did something they used protection. Both. Yes, of course. Max. I'm not against your relationship, in fact I'm very happy for you, and if you're going to do things that couples do when they're alone, please at least use protection. Izuku. Sure. Far from there, high security prison. In a high-security prison you could see a person and some kind of very resistant metal valve. The thickness was too much, and he had a metal mask covering most of his face. He was calm until he heard someone turn on the TV from afar. He didn't care until he heard Izuku's name mentioned. Eifo? So you're still alive, I thought it was just my fantasies. The villain hadn't escaped for the simple fact that he had nothing better to do. A part of the League of Villains was still free, and he no longer needed any of them. He was stronger alone than accompanied. He broke the capsule in which he was and was wearing his typical suit. Eifo? It's good to move from time to time. Several security alarms were activated and many guards were behind the door, while some with a cell phone saw everything he did. Eifo? If you don't move you will die. Well, you had your chance. The door was expelled, and when it hit the wall by force it killed about 3 guards. The others tried to hit All For One, but he took out some metal spikes from his body and ended up killing most of them, except one who tried to escape. All For One buried a spike in his foot and then lifted him up holding his neck and foot. He showed it to the camera, and as if it were a simple paper he tore it in half. The blood came out in huge spurts, but All For One was not stained at all. He left the room where he was and saw the other prisoners. Eifo? I will give you a unique opportunity, join my small purpose, and you can be free, and no one will ever mess with you again. Prisoner. If you say it to kill that boy, not a chance, you couldn't beat him before, let alone now he's much better than you. Eifo. Oh sure, here we have the genius, what did you do, did you steal a bike? All For One broke the bars of his cell, as if it were nothing and grabbed his face. He hit him, but All For One ended up exploding his face in his fist. The body fell to the ground, and he turned to see the other prisoners. Eifo. If you're with me you'll get on your knees. Prisoner. And if we simply don't want to join but also not interfere. Eifo. Well, creates a saw with his hand and destroys his entire chest, there is no other option. All the prisoners got on their knees and All For One smiled. Eifo. Finally my triumphant return, we must prepare properly, take away the weapons from all the guards, if you need anything else go to the vault, and there you will find what you need, we will have all this month to prepare. 1 month later. Izuku's life had a pretty good rhythm, he was so calm, and right now he had stopped a thief. It was around 6 in the afternoon, when a great light coming from far away illuminated the sky, capturing all the attention of the city. Most people noticed that a live broadcast from a television company began, and they thought it would be a simple daily report, but they were surprised to see next to him a presenter trembling with tears. Eifo? You will talk or I will. Presenter. Stop Izuku Midoriya, you have to come to the state prison please, face All For One and. Eifo? I didn't like your report anymore, we will call you for the next one. All For One moved the camera a little, and heartbreaking screams could be heard until a blood stain covered a part of the camera. All For One removed it. Eifo. Sorry for that little intrusion, Izuku Midoriya, it's good to know you're alive, but unfortunately for you, so am I. Izuku was watching the recording with many people on a large screen in the center of the city. Eifo. I just want something and it's very simple, come here, and for every hour you take, one of these prisoners will die. Prisoner. That wasn't the deal. All For One's arm stretched too long and pierced the prisoner's chest killing him. Eifo. Fine, 1, you can come with as many as you want, you'll still fall with those you come with, and finally the world will know who dominates them, who is above them all. The transmission cut off and Izuku ran through the streets until he reached his apartment. He called Almight. Izuku. Please answer. The phone continued to ring until the call was sent to voicemail. Izuku hung up and quickly left, running into a large crowd. Izuku. What's wrong? Person. You have to go, if he kills those criminals, he'll come for us later. Izuku. I'll go, but not now, I have to. People. You have to go now, it's for our own good. Izuku. What are you talking about? If I go there, I'll probably die. Person. And if you don't go, we'll all die. Izuku gritted his teeth and went to the prison. He had a very bad feeling, and when he arrived he could see several prisoners pointing guns at him. He prepared for the worst, but All For One appeared on the scene. Eifo. Why didn't you call your friends? Izuku. I thought you died the same way I did. Eifo. Don't talk nonsense, did you think that a simple child who didn't even have half the strength of his mentor could kill me? Not even All Might has been able to get rid of me in all this time. Izuku. You've already caused enough trouble. Eifo. It's true, stands up and walks slowly towards Izuku, but you owe me everything you have. Izuku? Of course not. Afo? Who was the one who improved you, who made you able to come back to life, who sent the monster to a street to kidnap a simple child, and that Almight will arrive, who sent the League of Villains to where you always went? You belong to me, your very existence right now is because of me. Izuku? What are you talking about? Afo? I can't believe you thought you were some kind of chosen one. I managed to make you receive. It's so easy to make a person suffer a cardiac arrest and resuscitate them afterwards. Well, that's easy for me. Izuku? I don't understand. Izuku looked sweating at All For One who stood in front of him. Afo? Your powers, those that once belonged to Almight, exist thanks to me. Everything you appreciate and want, what you love exists thanks to me, and since I did it, I have the right to take it away from you. All For One punched Izuku in the face that sent him flying a few meters. Izuku fell into a car with some blood on his face and could see how everything he had said was being broadcast live. Afo? Don't worry about the cameras, I want them to see you and everyone else fall. Izuku? Everything you said is a lie, it's impossible that you did it. Afo? There are too many things you don't know. Flashback 30 years ago. A young businessman could be seen lying on the ground in the middle of the street. The reason was because a thief had assaulted him and a bullet was going to end his life. He felt despair and helplessness of not being able to do anything, but his strength was fading until a policeman arrived. It was a policeman with an incredible quirk. If only he had a quirk, he wanted it. He longed for it more than anything because that way no one could ever challenge him or hurt him again, and maybe he could become as incredible as his brother, but the hatred he felt blinded him. The policeman held his hand, and a great light came to the man's mind. He thought he had come to the end, but instead he felt a kind of force run through his arm, and when he opened his eyes, he could see the different appearance of the policeman. He no longer had that great muscles, and so on, and now he did have it. He was amazed. It's incredible. Policeman. What did you do? I'll take it, borrow it. The man ran through the streets in search of his attacker, while colliding with several people and felt even stronger. He could do things he had never done before or could do with his true condition. He was full of power and knew what he would use it for. The criminal who assaulted him ended up succumbing to him, and that day in a small alley, one of the worst villains was born, but his actions would not end with killing thieves. He wanted to be bigger, to show that he was really the best. Present. Afo. The one for all that you possess is a series of quirks combined to increase all the physical capabilities of its bearer, and the only one who should possess it would be me. I had collected the physical capabilities of the strongest heroes and put them together in my body, but my brother once again intervened, although it was the last, seeing his hand, but he achieved his damn goal. He discarded all my effort and gave it away to an idiot. The work of my life that flows through your veins is nothing more than the agony of many fallen heroes in my hands. Boy, does that seem like the quirk of a hero to you? Izuku was stunned by All For One's story, but it didn't last long since the latter approached him with incredible speed and began to brutally punch him in the face with both fists. Afo. And finally, after so many years, I can't have what always belonged to me. Izuku covered most of the attacks, but the ones that hit were too painful. At one point a drill appeared in All For One's fist and managed to hit Izuku with it, hurting him. Izuku responded with a punch, but All For One didn't flinch at all. He grabbed Izuku by the arm and threw him into the prison. Izuku got up, but a beam of energy hit his body, making him fall. Afo. Oh, and I forgot to mention, your teammates' quirks aren't that bad, twisting his knuckles. Izuku. What? Afo. Why do you think not even All Might answered? But don't worry, they're watching the fun from the front row, pointing to the ceiling of the prison. On the roof you could see all of Izuku's friends along with their mentors. Izuku activated One For All and jumped, but All For One grabbed his foot and threw him to the ground, creating a small crater. Izuku endured the pain and got up, but All For One grabbed his face and buried him over and over again, getting harder and harder, making the green-haired boy bleed. After a couple of hits, All For One let go and threw him to the ceiling. Izuku crawled to his teammates who were in copies of All For One's capsules. He arrived in a jump and his arm hardened completely, and with a blow to the back of the neck, he buried Izuku's face in it and then took it out and showed it to his friends. Afo. It's incredible, isn't it? Come on, All Might, why the murderous look? All Might. I'm going to kill you when I get out of here. Afo. That's not what a hero does, besides I don't think those kids can help you. Izuku broke free and hit him with a powerful blow to the face. Right now the One For All was running through his veins and had no sign of turning off. Izuku lashed out at All For One and an exchange of blows began, but All For One ended up winning. Izuku was practically on the mat when a gust of air caught All For One's attention. Afo. Ah, I'm missing three. The three previous greats of UA entered the scene with a serious look. Afo. Well, I'll enjoy snatching their quirks from their bodies, they are alive unlike those over there. All for One ran towards them, but Najire fired a blast of air in the shape of a bullet that went through All for One's shoulder. Tamaki took the capsules with Izuku's friends, and Mirio gave him a powerful blow that broke part of his mask. "Afo. You're incredibly strong, congratulations." All for One responded with an even stronger blow, and Mirio fell to his knees to the ground. Najire protected him by distracting All for One while he got back up. Izuku got up, and with a speed faster than sound, he rammed All for One, and both returned to the prison courtyard, although All for One was the only one to hit, as Najire helped slowly lower Izuku. "Izuku. Thanks for the help." "Najire. I'll go for Mirio soon." Izuku went straight towards All for One, but he hit him in the jaw that left Izuku stunned. He proceeded to brutally beat the green-haired man, but Izuku managed to get back up, and with several blows almost as strong as Almight's, he managed to face All for One. After so much fighting, Mirio arrived, and together with Izuku, they began to beat All for One, who could barely defend himself. His clothes began to tear, and his mask was almost completely broken. Najire on the other hand finished off the other prisoners, and Tsumaki helped free Izuku's friends. Everything was relatively well packed, and the people were incredibly nervous until Mirio with a blow ended up breaking All for One's mask, and he fell to his knees. Both heroes were very tired and in a fighting position when they saw All for One tear off the sleeves of his suit and crack his neck. "Mirio. This is going to end badly." All for One turned to look at both of them, and even though at first glance he didn't seem to have eyes, his angry face was quite noticeable. "Afo. I gave them a chance, and I'm tired of games." And the prison was silent and the villain One for All had a noticeably angry face. Mirio walked away with Izuku, but the villain pulled a phone out of his pocket that was crashed. "Afo. I'll tell you one thing, I don't plan on losing everything I've done, you will come with me to hell." All for One turned on the phone, and a small beep could be heard amidst so much silence. Izuku tried to decipher where the sound was coming from until a red light pointed below them. Izuku noticed that there was something in the sky, and it was a helicopter. "Izuku. What is that?" "Mirio. Move." Several bags of grenades and other explosives were dropped from several helicopters, blowing up the entire place and setting it on fire completely. Smoke took over the place, and Izuku was below the rubble in the prisoners' cells. "Izuku. Guys, I need you to listen to me." "Afo. I'm hearing loud and clear." The wall behind Izuku was pierced by the villain's fist, and Izuku was quickly sucked in. He tried to get out, but All for One gave him a strong blow to the stomach, followed by another to the face. Later he let go and his arm completely transformed. "Afo. It won't hurt." The villain tried to hit Izuku, but the explosions created a large barricade between them. Izuku took advantage of this to look for an exit to the outside. He could hear the footsteps of people running and screamed to see if Mirio or someone heard him. Minutes passed and nothing, so he decided to give up and look for a way out. He moved debris and destroyed walls for a long time until he managed to get outside and saw all the people outside through a layer of smoke. He got up somewhat sore from all the fighting, and Mirio told him to move, although he didn't recognize the signal. "Afo. No more games, no more exits, no more failures." All for One grabbed a piece of debris, and as if it were a baseball bat, he hit Izuku in the back with a tremendous blow that projected him several meters. The fire was getting stronger, and the firefighters were barely arriving, although All for One repelled them with his many quirks. "Afo. Don't interfere." Izuku got up, but a bolt of electricity made him fall to the ground again. He felt tired, but he managed to see how All for One's hand transformed into a kind of blade. "Afo. A clean and deep cut." All for One lunged at Izuku, but he jumped and grabbed a metal bar. He climbed up a floor that was on fire and almost managed to get out of the place. If it weren't for All for One going through the floor and grabbing him by the hair, throwing him to the ground again, Izuku recovered and All for One fell with his blade trying to pierce his chest, but only managed to make a cut near his eye. Izuku was bleeding when a strong current of air moved all his hair, and All for One turned to look behind him. "Afo. Gran Torino. Gran Torino. And to think you escaped again, I thought I would no longer be in this world when that happened." "Afo. We can fix that." Izuku hugged All for One by the waist from behind and lifted him up. Gran Torino boosted himself using his quirk and gave a double kick to the villain's face. Izuku jumped using One for All and could see how Mirio appeared on the scene and hit the villain hard. All for One grabbed Mirio's fist, but Mirio used his quirk and with his other hand began to hit him. While the three fell, Izuku released All for One and threw him to the ground. Tamaki used his tentacles to catch both of them and bring them down safe and sound. When a cloud of smoke fell, it covered much of the fire. The three men were waiting to see if it would get up, but instead a wall flew towards them, but Izuku destroyed it with a blow. "Afo. A few simple children and an old man, I can't believe it, I've killed and terrified the world for so long." Izuku. And that ends today. "Afo. If All Might couldn't stop me, neither can you." Izuku. You know I may not be as strong as Almight, but there's something you've been wrong about all this time. Mirio, could you do the honors? Mirio. With pleasure. Mirio grabbed Izuku's hand and began to spin around a couple of times. All for One ran in his direction, but Mirio threw Izuku hard, and he hit him that threw All for One away from them. Izuku quickly went to where All for One was barely recovering and kicked him in the stomach, putting him on his back. The villain tried to attack, but Izuku began to hit him in the face brutally with both fists. Izuku. I'm not All Might, I don't fight the same as him, I don't do the same as him, I am Izuku Midoriya, one of your many victims, of your stupid actions and your stupid ego, you will never hurt anyone again, while hitting the villain. All for One was bleeding profusely and crawled on the ground slowly, he was getting up when he saw some shoes in front of him and could see his lifelong rival. Afo. This will never end, I will continue to reign no matter what, smiling. All Might. I don't believe that, I was never the one who was supposed to stop you like you believed, it was always his destiny, and you trusted him. Afo. You know I'll be back, I always come back better than ever. All Might. And that's why I've been thinking of a plan all this time, but first smash. All Might punched him in the face, knocking out his rival. The firefighters were able to put out the fire, and the police arrested All for One and took him away in an armored truck. Izuku went with his old friends, and they all greeted them with a hug. Izuku. Sorry about all that, I never should have involved them. Haminari. Are you kidding? It was one of your best moments and thanks for saving us. Izuku. He took their quirks and I don't know how to get them back. Bakugo. Well, it better not be too long, I'll keep training, but it won't be the same. Izuku. I'll do everything I can. One day later. All for One was tied up, still injured, and they put him in a very resistant glass capsule, capable of withstanding about 100 blows from 100% of All for One. When they put him in, he was still bleeding a little. Afo. What are they doing? Izuku. Imprison you forever, people will think you are in a Canadian prison far from Japan, but. All Might. I hope and don't be afraid of the sea, this capsule will provide you with enough oxygen down there. Afo. What are you talking about? Izuku. Have a good trip, All for One. Both heroes slowly pushed the capsule to the seashore. Afo. You can't do this to me, you can't leave me like this. Isaac. Nobody will know. Afo. That goes against your ethics as heroes, there are police here. All Might. After throwing you into the sea, none of us will have seen, heard or said anything, and there will be no true information about your whereabouts. Afo. Don't do it, I warn you, when I get out of here I will kill you all. Izuku. Good luck with that, if you are able to breathe for more than 3 hours and withstand the pressure of the sea without the help of the capsule, but you will not be alone, many scientists will do tests on you so that my friends and many other people can recover their quirks. All Might and Izuku threw the capsule into the sea, and the villain slowly saw his fate and how for a long time the only thing he would see would be water and water and water. 1 year later. Izuku was sleeping in a somewhat large room with many women around him. He got up and wiped his face to put on a shirt. He prepared some breakfast when he heard a knock on the door and answered. All Might. Busy day? Izuku. I wouldn't say so. All Might. I have good news, now we can make your friends and partners recover their quirks. Izuku. That's fantastic, this last year has been quite calm. All Might. Although a lot of things have happened, haven't they? Izuku. I'm not going to lie to you, this has been one of the best years of my life. Izuku looked at a photo in which he was seen smiling, and at his sides, you could see a large number of women smiling at the camera as well. The green-haired man became boyfriend of each and every one of them, and right now they all live together with his daughter Eri. It was something strange since they had to look for a house big enough, but they managed to agree on a good price with the seller. All Might told Izuku to go with all those affected in a couple of hours to his house, and so it was. All Might's house. Izuku. One question, were you also able to recover the quirks of other people? All Might. Unfortunately not, All for One somehow erased them, and right now he doesn't have a quirk, we were only able to save those of your friends and partners. Izuku. There's nothing we can do, right? All Might. If saving lives, living up to your name heroes, you are all professional heroes. Izuku. That's true. All those affected entered a booth one by one which returned their quirks. The process took a couple of minutes, but they could finally get back into action. Izuku returned home with his partners, and upon arrival, he lay down on the couch looking at the ceiling. Izuku. What will the future hold for me? 10 years later. A certain green-haired man could be seen sitting in a patio while watching several children run. He had a smile on his face and had a ring on his hand. He could see that his children were playing with all kinds of quirks that they had developed due to the strange combination of their father's and mother's quirks. Mina. Are you enjoying the view? Izuku. Quite a lot, and how are you feeling? Mina. Fine, although I've gained weight. Izuku. It's something that was going to happen, do you want to sit down? Mina. No, I'd rather you take me out to eat something. Izuku. Okay, alone. Mina. Do you want to take all the children? Izuku. Okay, let me tell the others that we're going out. Izuku took Ishido's hand and they went to tell the others, they gladly accepted and they both left their house which had witnessed many important moments for this great family. On the other hand, UA had received another generation of heroes and things were going well, there were still criminals so heroes continued to exist, the threats did not stop as well as the constant training. Now we could see how Izuku walked next to one of his wives, well people took many photos of them and published things like, the pregnancy of the heroine Mina Ishido is much more noticeable. Or the relationship of the greatest hero with a new member of the family, how many more are missing? Izuku received a lot of criticism as well as support from the public, finally after so many sacrifices as a young man, so many fights and defeats he could enjoy his life with the people he loved and he could not ask for anything more. The sun hit the couple's joined hands illuminating the ring where you could see Midoriya family in very small letters. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching, if you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day, bye.